Good morning, everyone. Oh my goodness, we have a full house today. I'm so impressed, and I want to thank Todd Diggy, Mary Campbell, and Janice McDowney for organizing this event. Let's give them a round of applause. But I'm not going to hold them responsible what happens on Saturday, okay? So, good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the USC Experience Retreat. We have a truly incredible program this morning. Today's retreat will challenge us to reimagine how we do things across both campuses and our medical enterprise. And it will redefine how our students and their parents, as well as our patients and their families, experience and benefit from the new environment we seek to create for them. So I just want to make it clear that this retreat, when it comes to USC Experience, is going to focus on the customer. Is the students and the tuition-paying parents and the patients and their families. In just a short while, Joseph Pine, the visionary author of The Experience Economy, will speak about principles that will transform and elevate our university. And after a short break, we will reunite to hear a panel discuss several USC stories. They will describe how they are creating exceptional experiences for our stakeholders within their own divisions. You will then have an opportunity to brainstorm with others at your table. And later at lunch, and I would encourage all of you not to miss lunch today. Later at lunch, USC trustee Rick Caruso will share his story of generating memorable experiences for guests at his singular award-winning retail destinations. Before we contemplate where we're going, it is necessary to know where we stand. As a private research university, USC has unique capabilities, but also we do have unique responsibilities. The relationships that we promote and preserve with our students and their parents, as well as our patients and their families, are the lifeblood of our great university and its future. Our future and theirs are closely intertwined. Just as USC lives for its stakeholders, our stakeholders live for USC, which is why delivering the experiences that our stakeholders expect and surpassing those expectations wherever possible is paramount to USC's viability and ascent. Today, we approach an important junction in education and medicine. Institutions of learning and healthcare have been the most enduring centers of human improvement, but both are facing greater pressure than ever before. The rise of online education has led to questions about the value and purpose of a traditional university campus, as well as fears of its eventual disappearance. Many of these concerns lack validity, but the emergence of online education imposes fresh demands to improve the experiences of our students on a physical campus. And we should feel blessed as a university because it was just 25 years ago that this campus was primarily a commuter campus. This is no longer the case. In medicine, the dawn of new regulations and medical advances has ushered in a seemingly contradictory mandate to offer more for less. While healthcare today is far from being on life support, this new environment leaves providers beholden to enhancing their services. As touch points in providing experiences and services for our students, parents, patients, and families, you each have a pivotal role to play. But the theater in which you perform is a noble one. The stage upon which you all perform important roles is a venue for showcasing USC's powerful academic brand, and our pride is well-founded. The university's brand stretches around the world, resonating with individuals of all ages and all avocations. Our academic excellence is renowned. We offer unparalleled opportunities across disciplines for undergraduates and graduates pursuing our professional programs. Transformative faculty members are changing the intellectual shape of the university as much as they're changing the scholarly contours of their respective fields. USC is a vital center of innovation. As a major research university, we always explore and experiment, not only for the sake of exploration of experimentation, but to solve problems and improve lives. And we're advancing humanity each and every day. In addition to research, we boast a unique commitment to the arts. With 6 independent schools for the creative and performing arts, as well as visions and voices, we encourage students to feed their imaginations and nourish their artistic souls. And our athletic spirit contributes greatly to the school spirit of the overall university. The university also offers students an unparalleled undergraduate experience. Take a stroll through the university at any given moment, and you will find a place that is alive with activities. USC's international character defines us not only as a global citizen, but as a global classroom. With students today from more than 115 nations, and of course students from all 50 states, and countless international programs, USC reaches out to the world. USC is also home to our world-famous Trojan family. This vast network of supporters wears its heart on its sleeves and its devotion on its other sleeve. And finally, our university has been making serious investments in our medical enterprise. Today, Keck Medicine is a critical center of patient care that is changing the face of our university. But as it continues to expand, it is also changing the face of medicine throughout Southern California. These core strengths of USC are a wellspring of meaningful and memorable experiences for our stakeholders. They are the cornerstones of our brand. And yet, if we are to remain competitive and improve, we must find new ways to surpass what we have already been doing. In some respects, education and medicine share similar places in USC's mission. In education, we are committed to producing individuals who are complete human beings. In medicine, we are dedicated to producing individuals who are whole. In academia, we must strive to improve the residential student experience, the student services and facilities. This is especially important at the undergraduate level, where demands are much higher. Several months ago, actually this past summer, we took an important step forward when we broke ground on the USC Village. But such upgrades to USC's physical infrastructure are only one element that will set us apart. More important are the social and human aspects of the university. The face-to-face encounters inside and outside the classroom have the deepest impact. In many years, we already excel at this. Admissions and events come quickly to mind. But again, we must continue to strive for improvements. We must sustain and improve the experiences of students and their parents, all the while creating new experiences as the times change. This is particularly true throughout our medical enterprise. Medicine is an intensely interpersonal field where people at their most vulnerable rely on doctors and staff to be their most accessible. And this applies to the full range of patients and their families. Every day, in every moment, in every encounter, we can never overplay our commitment to creating the USC experience. Thank you. Thank you. It is now my great pleasure to introduce this morning's keynote speaker, Mr. Joseph Pine. Mr. Pine is an internationally acclaimed author, speaker, and management advisor. Before beginning a prolific career in teaching executive education, he spent 13 years working at IBM. Mr. Pine now specializes in helping others see the worlds of academia and business differently throughout lectures, workshops, and executive education. He also reshapes and realigns perspectives through his groundbreaking books, including the award-winning Mass Customization, The New Frontiers in Business Competition and Authenticity, and Authenticity, What Consumers Really Want. But Mr. Pine is probably best known for co-authoring The Experience Economy. Work is theater, and every business is a stage. In 2009, The Experience Economy was named one of the 100 best business books of all time. So please help me welcome one of the world's foremost authorities on education and business, here to share what his ideas mean for the USC experience, Mr. Joseph Pine.
It is a pleasure to be with you this morning to really give some meaning, give some vocabulary to what this USC experience is all about. I've heard a lot about what is already happening, the recognition that you really are in the experience business, and have been able to partake in that myself in the great way that I've been treated over the last couple of days since I flew in from Minnesota. And believe me, when you live in Minnesota, it's always a pleasure to come to Southern California. So let me start in talking about the experience economy with one particular example that I think is very telling. It's a particular company that really revolutionized its entire industry through an experience innovation. Let me know if you've ever seen this particular experience innovation before. All right, you ever seen this device? It's known as the Gumball Wizard, right, from a company called Global Gumball, and it has revolutionized the global gumball industry. If you haven't seen one, what happens is a kid takes this quarter, comes up to the device, puts the coin in the slot, turns the crank, and then doesn't get a gumball, at least not right away. He first gets the gumballing experience as it goes spiraling down, clickety-clack as it goes until it finally reaches the bottom. Now, there's no functional purpose whatsoever for this device. You don't get a better manufactured good. The gumball's the same as it's always been. You don't get better service. In fact, the service is actually worse. Why? Right, it takes longer to get the gumball that you requested, and yet it has more value. It has more value because of that gumballing experience. I've seen kids go up to their parents, ask them for a quarter, excitedly come up to the Gumball Wizard, put the quarter in the slot, turn the crank, have that wonderful gumballing experience, pick up that gumball, and then go throw it away and ask their parents for another quarter. It's really just a slot machine for kids is what it is. But why is this happening? Well, it's basically indicative of a very fundamental change in the very fabric of the economy. Where we've gone from an agrarian economy based off commodities, through an industrial economy based off of goods, and then the latter half of the 20th century, we shifted into a service economy, where we use goods as the raw material to deliver a set of intangible activities on behalf of an individual person. And what happened in the service economy is that goods became commoditized. Commoditized, meaning they're treated like a commodity, where people don't care about the brand, they don't care about the features, they're all pretty much the same anyway. They come to care about three things and three things only: price, price, and price. That's when goods have been commoditized. And in fact, the greatest force of commoditization ever invented is the internet. The frictionless marketplace means that customers can instantly compare prices from one vendor to another, and it tends to push them down to the lowest possible price. Now, there's another great force of commoditization going across the landscape. I don't know if you know who this is, but I'm thinking of one particular company based in Bentonville, Arkansas, right? Walmart. Walmart's entire raison d'etre, right? Its reason for existence is to commoditize all of the goods that it has for sale. They actually wanted to lower the price of its goods it offers to its customers year over year. So it does whatever it takes to be able to do that, increasing the package size, squeezing its suppliers, improving its logistics, enhancing its IT, whatever it takes. But Walmart is also increasingly getting into services. Started with food services, and then photographic services, optometric services, and increasingly now financial and, yes, even healthcare services. And what it means is that services are being commoditized as well. Long-distance telephone services now sold on price, price, price. Fast food restaurants with all their value pricing, and the internet can even commoditize services. What used to cost several $100s to buy or sell a block of shares with a full-service broker can now cost as low as $3 with an internet-based broker. And what that means is that fundamentally goods and services are no longer enough. Goods and services are everywhere becoming mere commodities. And that means it's time to move to a new level of economic value, to go beyond the goods and services to staging experiences for our customers. Now, if the most important thing to understand, if you remember nothing else from our time here this morning, remember this. Experiences are, in fact, a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services are from goods. It's basically use goods as props and services as a stage to engage each and every person in an inherently personal way, and thereby create a memory, which is the hallmark of the experience. So we're shifting into an experience economy, an economy where experiences are becoming the predominant economic offering, where experiences are going to generate the growth in jobs, the growth in GDP. Experiences are where we need to innovate. And we see a number of companies that have been innovating in experiences. You can go back to the world's first themed restaurant. Hard Rock Cafe was actually founded in London in 1971, where they merged rock music with food service to create a unique dining experience. You can get a rock of a different kind at REI, Recreational Equipment Incorporated, based in Seattle, where we're putting in these 60-foot mountains, where for a $15 fee or $5 if you're a member of the REI co-op, you can climb the mountain in the store. Now, why would they want you to do that? To be able to try out all the mountain climbing gear that it has for sale in the store. At the store in Minneapolis, near where I live, they have a cross-country ski trail every winter. The store in Seattle, their flagship store, is a cross-country bicycling trail. The store in Denver is right next to a river. It has a kayaking experience. The whole notion is to get you to experience the goods before you buy them, and then the chances you will buy them go up. You see it with experiential retail. You see it with the rise of the boutique hotel industry. This is my favorite hotel to stay at whenever I'm in Manhattan. This is the Library Hotel. It's on 49th Street in Madison. So if you walk out these doors and look to your right, there is the most famous library branch in the world, the one on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. But the theme of the Library Hotel, and every great experience needs a theme. It doesn't have to be as in-your-face as a Hard Rock Cafe. It doesn't have to be fantasy like Disneyland and that, but it's simply the organizing principle for the experience. And the organizing principle for the Library Hotel is three simple words: Dewey Decimal System. Right? Dewey Decimal System. It's about the Dewey Decimal System. So knowing that the theme is the Dewey Decimal System, when you go walk through those doors and head up to registration, what might you expect to see? Right? A card catalog, exactly. right? That's there in registration along with all the books that you see. And then the room, again, the hotel's organized. It's a boutique hotel. There's 10 floors on it, and every floor is a different classification in the Dewey Decimal System. So there's a social studies floor, a language floor, math and science, technology, the arts, literature, and so forth. And then every room in the hotel is a different sub-classification in there. So when you get to your room, it is filled with books and then art objects that are inspired by that particular classification. And of course, one of the beauties of it, in this boutique hotel, 10 floors, 6 rooms in every floor, how many times do you have to go in order to experience it all? And if you do go, I heartily recommend, if you love books like I love books, like this is the place to stay. And if you have the opportunity, see if you can request room 300.003. All right, that's my favorite room. That's the economics room. And when you go in there, there's always one particular book that you'll encounter. You see it in the ability for companies to turn mundane services into engaging encounters, particularly by embracing the principle of theater, right? Understanding that in the experience economy, work is theater. This is my favorite example of that. This is a company in the Minneapolis that was founded by a gentleman that actually dropped out of the University of Minnesota, Robert Stevens, in order to create this company, get in the computer installation and repair business. And he said, well, who better do that than geeks? So he named the company, of course, the Geek Squad. And Robert says he doesn't interview prospective employees, he auditions them, make sure he can typecast them as geeks. And then he costumes them like you see, white shirts, thin black ties. The ties are actually clip-on, just in case they get caught in the printer. They have things hanging off the belt, the black pants and the white socks. Robert says the white socks really make that uniform pop. And they drive around in their Geekmobiles, black and white Beetles with the Geek Squad logo emblazoned on their side. And when they get to your home and to your offices, one of the first things they'll do is they'll pull out their badge and say, hi, I'm from the Geek Squad. Slowly step away from that computer, ma'am. And they go about giving you this computer repair experience. Robert says that his goal is to make the computer repair experience so engaging that his customers can't wait till the computers break down. And you probably know the rest of the story. They're actually bought over a decade ago by Best Buy, or as Robert says, they have infiltrated Best Buy on its continued quest for world domination. And inside of there, they now have these counterintelligence units, right? These Geek Squad precincts inside of every Best Buy. They've gone from a little over 20 agents in Minneapolis to now over 20,000 agents around the country and elsewhere in the world, right? Showing how the concept can, in fact, scale. You see it in many different industries, practically any industry you name, although I gave a talk earlier this summer to the Minnesota Bankers Association. And one of the things I told them is that no industry has more commoditized itself than banking. Right? Why? Well, they came to view spending time with customers as costing them money. And they don't want to do that. They don't want customers to come in and cost them money. So one bank decided to counteract that as Umpqua Bank. Right? They want to be, in fact, the world's greatest bank. So what did they do is they created places where people would actually want to hang out. Right? This is their branch in the Pearl District in Portland, Oregon. And it's a very comfortable environment. You can sit down, you can relax, you can actually enjoy a cup of coffee in the cafe that they have there. And you do all these services that they provide because they want customers to feel comfortable actually spending time in the bank. So much so that they actually open it up to community events during the evening and that. So people get used to coming into the bank for many different reasons and not just avoid it like they do in most every other bank. And of course, you see it in healthcare. In fact, I probably work more in the healthcare industry than any other for the simple reason that research shows that the better the patient experience, the better the outcomes. And we're going to talk about that toward the end of the presentation this morning. But the outcomes actually get better. The chances that somebody heal goes up, the time it takes to heal goes down if you have a better patient experience. What I think is a shining example in the healthcare industry is Mid-Columbia Medical Center in the Dalles, Oregon. And they've had the same theme, the same organizing principle now going on 3 decades. And it's 3 words there. It's personalize, humanize, demystify, PhD. Makes it easy to remember. Personalize, humanize, demystify. And that's what they do. Every decision made from the CEO and the board on down is based on whether it better personalizes, humanizes, and demystifies the experience. So they personalize the experience by allowing you to choose the artwork that goes on your hospital wall during your stay. They let you choose the color and style of robe that you wear, whether it closes in the back or not, completely up to you. They humanize the experience. It's not like a cold, white, impersonal hospital. It's more like going into a bed and breakfast inn. In fact, what might you think this is in the hospital? What area? Right, waiting room is what it looks like. In fact, this is the nurse's station. Right? So they're not separated, but in fact can come out and have real conversations with patients and with their family members. This is an entrance to the Mid-Columbia Medical Center, but it's not the patient entrance. This is actually the employee entrance, knowing that they have to give employees the wherewithal to be able to create a great experience. So they personalize it, they humanize it, and they demystify it. They give patients and their family members access to all of the information that it takes to become part of the total healing process. And Mid-Columbia Medical Center went from serving 2 counties on either side of the Columbia River Gorge to now they have had people come there for their health care needs from over 20 different states because of the experience that they have created in there. So this, again, is what's going on in the world. As we've gone from an agrarian economy based off commodities through an industrial economy, through a service economy, and now today we're in an experience economy. That's what consumers are looking for. And that's where we need to innovate. We need to innovate in experiences. This really hit home for me a number of years ago when I was in Milan, Italy, actually, giving a boardroom presentation with a number of executives. And one of them was the vice president of Maxwell House in Europe. And he said something that floored me. He said, there's been no innovation in the coffee industry in 15 years. And I said, are you kidding me? Have you never heard of Starbucks? Because for him, innovation was in goods. Like he had blinders on. We're a manufacturing company, therefore we innovate in goods. Totally missing the innovation in the coffee drinking experience that Starbucks has created. The irony, of course, being it was actually Milan, Italy, that inspired Howard Schultz to create that coffee experience. He saw the coffee culture that Milan has. He wanted to bring that to the U.S., stop just selling manufactured goods, and create places where people can order a cup of coffee and then enjoy it, spending their time with the company. And if you think about it, coffee perfectly exemplifies this progression that I'm talking about. Coffee at its core is what? It's water and beans, right? It's coffee beans. And coffee beans are a commodity. You know it's a commodity because you can look up its future price in the Wall Street Journal every morning. Anything that has a future price is a true commodity. And if you take that future price and convert it from a per ton to a per cup basis, you know how much coffee costs per cup when you treat it as a commodity? 2 or 3 cents, right? 2 or 3 cents. That's how much your cup of coffee this morning is worth in beans, 2 or 3 cents. But if you take those beans, you grind them, roast them, package them, put them on a grocery store shelf like Maxwell House does, now you can get 5, 10, 15 cents per cup of coffee. Perform the service of brewing it for a customer in a vending machine, in a corner diner, a kiosk, a bodega somewhere, maybe a Dunkin' Donuts. Now you can get 50 cents, $1, $1.50, maybe 2 per cup of coffee. But surround the brewing of that coffee with the ambiance and theater of a Starbucks, and now how much are you paying? Right? $3, $4, $5 per cup of coffee. So you have one industry with 4 distinct levels of value. And it's totally dependent on what business you think you're in. Right? What business do you think you're in? That will determine how much value you're able to create in that business. Now, Starbucks actually doesn't hold a record for a cup of coffee. I had the opportunity a number of years ago to take my wife to Venice. And of course, we went to the Piazza San Marco and I bought her a cup of coffee at the Cafe Florian. And there we soaked in all the sights and sounds that most old world of Italian cities. And then I got the bill. You know how much a cup of coffee, plain old black coffee, costs at the Cafe Florian? 13.5 euros it was. 13.5 euros. Was it worth it? Assolutamente. Right? Absolutely is worth it. If you create a great experience for your customers, then they're going to be willing to pay a premium for that experience. Right? Because that's where economic value is in fact going. Now, I don't actually drink coffee, right? But I love going to Starbucks for chai. Right? I just love chai. I'm a tea drinker. It's like ambrosia to me. And this is my standard order at Starbucks. This is a Venti non-fat 6-pump no water chai extra hot. And every one of those things that I said is a way that they customize the experience to me. And in fact, customization is a key route up this progression of economic value. I actually discovered it from my first book, Mass Customization, about how do we efficiently give every customer exactly what they want. And what I realized is that customization automatically turns a good into a service. If you look at the classic economic distinctions, goods are standardized, services are customized. They're done just for a particular person. Goods are inventoried after production, but services are delivered on demand when the customer says this is what they want. And goods are tangible and services intangible, but part and parcel of mass customization is the intangible service of helping customers figure out what it is that they want. So if you customize a good, you're really in the service business of helping them define and design and then make and deliver that individual good to that individual person. So you see more and more companies that are moving into mass customization, such as Coca-Cola, which now has these freestyle machines. Freestyle machines where you go up to one of them and you take a base of Coke or Diet Coke or Coke Zero, and then you can add in orange, Fanta. You could add in Sprite. You can add cherry, lime, lemon, whatever you want. They have hundreds of different combinations of drinks. And you could even stop in midstream and then change over. I was speaking for the Missouri Hospital Association in June and drove from Kansas City into the Ozarks, 3-hour drive. And in the middle there, I was getting sort of hungry. It was dinner time and that, and so I stopped at a Wendy's in a little town in the middle of Missouri, and there they had a freestyle machine. And so I went up to it and I said, I love lime with my Coke. So I went up to the machine, I chose Coke with lime in it. And it got up to, however, to about 80%. And then all of a sudden I stopped it, and it just occurred to me at the time, and I switched over to Coke Zero with lime. So I got 80% sugar and then 20% non-sugar. And I can imagine over my time, right, I could wean myself off of the regular Coke in doing this, right, customizing it just to me. In the same way, when you mass customize a service, you can turn it into an experience. When you design a service that is so appropriate for this particular person, exactly the service that they need at this moment in time, well, then you can't help but make them go, wow, and turn it into a memorable event. My favorite example of that is actually Progressive Insurance, based in Cleveland. Progressive outfits its claims adjusters in these immediate response claims vehicles and then sends them out around the city. And you're instructed, if you're a policyholder of Progressive, that if you have an accident, if you can, call up Progressive immediately, and they dispatch a claims adjuster to the very side of the accident. These claims adjusters are literally roaming the city, just waiting for an accident to happen. And when they get to your accident, they design this as an experience. They will put out cones if you need to protect the area. They'll call the police if needed. They'll give you a seat on the vehicle to sit and calm your nerves. And then they'll go about adjusting the claim. On a laptop computer with wireless uplink to their mainframe computer, they have all the information about you, about your policy, about your vehicle, about where it can be fixed. And over 90% of the cases, they hand you a check on the spot. Right? Wow, hear that? Right? Wow. On the spot. Not only that, if your vehicle can't be driven, they call a tow truck company and take it to the garage of your choice. If you want, Progressive will handle all the repairs. You have nothing to do with that vehicle again until they deliver it personally to your driveway as good as new. They call a rental car company, have them drop off at the rental car at the very side of the accident. So you're driving away from this accident in a rental car that Progressive is paying for, with your vehicle being taken care of, with the check in your pocket. Turning what was a horrible experience, and I'm not talking about the accident, I'm talking about working with the insurance company, turning that horrible experience into a positive, memorable one, because they bring the entire power of the corporation to bear in your moment of need. And it lowers their costs to boot. Actually costs them less money to do it this way than the old way, for two reasons. One, because they get rid of all the economic waste in the system. They don't have to call back again. They don't have to come look at your vehicle, take more pictures. They do it all right there, right then. And secondly, they realize, and this is an important point for healthcare, when you give their customers a great experience, they tend not to question the amount that you're being charged. Right? They don't get their lawyers involved. And that lowers their cost as well. The essence of mass customization, then, what really is it? How do you efficiently do this level of customization? Well, it's understanding that you have a portfolio of customers. Every one of them individual, every one of them unique, every one of them deserving to get exactly what they want at a price they're willing to pay. And then you have a portfolio of capabilities. These are the things that you know how to do for customers. And the key to low-cost, efficient, high-volume customization is the modularity that you see up there. In fact, when you think of modularity, think of Lego building bricks. What can you build with Legos? Anything, right? Anything you want. Why? Because you have a large number of modules, different sizes, different shapes, different colors. And then a simple and elegant linkage system for snapping them together. That's what modularity is, right? Modules plus linkage system. And that's how we need to design our experiences, right? Modularized for individuals. And if you do that, then what you do is you work with each individual customer's needs. And then once you know those needs, you bring down only and exactly the modules that they need. Snap them together like Lego building bricks to create a customer-unique experience chain. Mass customization is not about being everything to everybody. Right? That's a surefire way to increase your cost. Instead, it's about doing only and exactly what each one wants. And it's the most sustainable thing that you can do because you're no longer producing things that customers don't want. You're no longer expending the Earth's resources to do something that an individual customer hasn't already said, yes, this is exactly what I want. Now, one of the other things you need in here is what I call a design tool. Some way of helping customers figure out what it is that they want. Because customers don't always know what they want, and even if they know, they can't always articulate it. So you've got to elicit it out of them. You have to do it without overwhelming them with too many choices. Because fundamentally, customers don't want choice. They just want exactly what they want. And when you can figure out what they want, then you can get that information back into operations to doing something different for that particular customer. And the design tool, I mean, they can be incredibly sophisticated pieces of technology. They can also be fairly simple. One of my favorites is actually a Select Comfort mattress. Select Comfort mattress has a very simple design tool that allows you to choose the level of firmness that you have on that mattress on each side of the mattress. And it goes from 0 to 100, right? That's the design tool. You take it from 0 to 100, where 0 is basically a water bed with no water in it, and 100 is a piece of plywood. And anywhere in there, you can adjust it. And you can even change it over time so that that bed becomes exactly the level of the firmness that each person on each side of the bed, in fact, wants. Now, when I talked about how Starbucks does a great job of customization, and they want your cup to be perfect, if there's anything that's not exactly the way you want it, they say, you know, bring it back and we will make it right. And they have a rewards program. And a lot of companies have reward program today. And I've been actually a member of the Starbucks rewards program since 2010. I've got a gold card because I go there so often for my Venti non-fat 6-pump no water chai extra hot. And every time I go there and I order that Venti non-fat 6-pump no water chai extra hot, I swipe that card and they know exactly what I'm buying. And then they send me emails and make me new offers. And the problem is every time they make me an offer, it's for a coffee drink. Right? I never touch coffee. I never drink it. But all the years that I've been with Starbucks, they have yet to figure that out, even though they record every single purchase that I have. Right? They make your favorite beverage at the touch of a button. Well, no, that's a coffee machine. That's not my favorite beverage. One time, they offered me a hand-picked beverage, but it turned out to be juice. Again, nothing to do with chai. One of the latest ones I got is that they said that they have a drink that's handcrafted just for me. They even figured out a way to put my name on the cup in the email that's there, but yet that's a latte, right? That's a coffee drink. That's not a chai. So all the times that I've been there, they have yet to figure out, right, that I'm a chai drinker and I don't drink coffee. It's like they don't know me at all. You've got to put that together. You've got to know your customers. You've got to figure out and remember what their preferences are. Right? Contrast that with Amazon.com, which is a learning machine, where it just learns everything about you, including your address and addresses of people that you send to. You know, I remember when my girls were in college, every semester they would order a bunch of books and I would send them to their individual addresses at college. It learns your credit card. It learns what, that I have a personal credit card and I have a business credit card, depending on what I'm buying in that. And it learns what I purchase to make recommendations based off of me. So even when I go into bookstores around the world, I'm constantly looking for new books, new ideas in that. I tend just to write down the name of it or use the Amazon app where I can just click on the cover of a book or the ISBN code on it, and instantly Amazon recognizes that and I can have it shipped to my home. Right? Doing that for the experience that they provide. So one of the things to recognize that as we've shifted into an experience economy, it means that you are now competing against the world. You're competing against the world. You may think you're competing only against other educational institutions or healthcare institutions, only in your geographic area, only in your industry and that. But in fact, thanks to this shift to experiences, you are competing against the world for the time, the attention, and the money of individual consumers. These are the currencies of the experience economy: time, attention, and money. And time is limited. I can only experience things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I got to fit sleep in there sometime. But if somebody does capture me and my time and gets me immersed in an experience that they're creating for me, and so I'm spending my time there, what am I not doing? I'm not spending that time with you. In the same way, in today's media fragmented world, it's increasingly difficult to capture somebody's attention. Attention is scarce today. But if somebody does capture my attention by immersing them in an experience in which I'm spending my time, then what am I not doing? I'm not giving that attention to you. In the same way, money is consumable. If I've got $1 to spend and I spend it with a different company in a different industry in a different geographic location, what can't I do with that dollar again? I can't spend it with you. It's consumed. It's gone. So you need to understand the basic principle of the experience economy, which is that the experience is the marketing. The experience is the marketing. In other words, the best way to generate demand today for any offering, whether it's a commodity, a good, a service, or even another experience, is with an experience so engaging that customers can't help but spend their time with you, give you their attention, and then spend their money as well by buying your particular offering. So one of the key things that companies the world over need to do is to stage marketing experiences. Experiences that do the job of marketing by generating demand. You can see that in the commodities business. You think of Pike Place Fish Market, right, immortalized in the fish video, where people come from the world over to be able to have the Pike Place experience, including that signature moment that they have, where if you order a fish, the worker shouts it out, all the other workers repeat it, and then what do? They take that fish and they fling it 15, 20 feet across the counter, or they wrap it up for them. So it does a tremendous job of marketing the fish that they have in this basic commodity business. You see it in manufactured goods as well. $95,000 to buy a grand piano from Steinway. And if you spend that money, don't be surprised if Steinway gives you a call and asks you if they can throw a concert in your own home. They ask you the name of friends and neighbors you'd like to invite to the concert. The night of the concert, they have valet parking out front. They serve wine and hors d'oeuvres inside. And then they hire a professional concert pianist to play your own piano in your own home. And you know that's the best that piano is ever going to sound, the night of that concert. And the gentleman told me about this, said that Steinway did a wonderful job. The pianist was magnificent, and after the concert, 2 of his friends bought pianos for their own homes. And that's what I mean. The experience is the marketing. They said what it was like to have a piano in their friend's home. They want that same experience in their own home. It works for $95,000 goods. It works for incredibly low involvement, cheap goods. This is the Charmin restroom experience. Right? I kid you not. The Charmin restroom experience that Procter & Gamble puts into Times Square every Christmas season, where you walk underneath that sign through those doors, you rise up these escalators where they have brand ambassadors that are singing the praises of Charmin, and I mean literally singing the praises of Charmin. You get to the top, you get into this queue to use one of 20 different bathrooms that they put up there, and everyone has a perfect experience. After a person leaves the front, somebody always comes in the back to be able to clean it up, right? So there's never any issue. As you sit there, you have your toilet paper menu, 6 different varieties of toilet paper that you can choose among to use. When you're done, you can sing and dance with the Charmin mascot. You can get your picture taken on the world's largest toilet. And the first year this one experience was opened up resulted in over 200,000 people that exposed themselves, if you pardon the expression, to Charmin toilet paper. And it resulted in over 450 million media impressions around the world. It's on the front page of the New York Times 3 times in 6 weeks. And therefore, it actually moved the needle on Charmin sales, right? That they could measurably see that because of the experience that they created. So it works for low involvement products as well. It works for, well, look at Apple, right? Look at Apple. Apple, I can still remember, it was over a decade ago now, when Steve Jobs announced that they were going to get in the retail business. I don't know if you remember this, but they got lambasted in the business press. They said, what do you know about retail? You're a designer, a manufacturer. You're going to tick off your channel partners, right? They're not going to sell your products if you create your own stores. And he proved them wrong. He vastly increased the pie because he created a great experience. Obviously, it's predicated on great products, right? If Apple had lousy products, the experience wouldn't work. But surround those products with an experience where you can touch and feel and experience every product that they sell inside of Apple stores. That Apple is now, in fact, the #1 retailer in the entire world. They get $6,000 per square foot across almost 400 stores today. #2 in the world is Tiffany's. It gets $2,700 per square foot. Average retailer might get $200, $300, $400 per square foot. An order of magnitude more because of the wonderful experience of the store combined with the experiencing of the products themselves. And you see it in services as well, commodities, goods, and services. ING, big Dutch bank, came over to the US marketplace a decade ago with no name recognition. And they didn't want to create out a new branch network. In fact, it's a branchless company. They have no physical branches. You work over the internet, over the phone, via the mail, and that sort of thing. But they wanted to create a physical presence. They wanted to get into retail. They wanted to create places where people would, in fact, spend time with the bank. So what did ING do is it created the ING Direct Cafe. ING Direct Cafe, a real live working cafe. This is the first one they created on 49th Street in Manhattan, where you walk in. It's a very European-style bistro. You go up to the barista, up to the counter, order a cup of coffee, maybe a biscotti, and then you start to notice that this is a bit of a different place. Right? They have the CNBC financial news playing on the TV. They have the Financial Times, Barron's, Wall Street Journal on the newspaper rack. They have these brochures about financial products. And the baristas, who in fact get 2 months of training on financial products, but 2 days of training on how to make coffee, come and engage you in conversation about your financial needs, trying to get you to move your money savings over into ING accounts or refinance your mortgage with ING funds. And amazingly, it works. The first year this one branch was opened, this one cafe, was opened up in New York City, resulted in over $200 million in new accounts for ING. Right? Average bank goes into a new area, they hope to get to maybe $50 million in 5 years. $200 million its first year. So they opened up a second cafe in Philadelphia, $200 million its first year. Third cafe here in LA, Santa Monica Boulevard in the 405, if you want to experience it for yourself. $200 million its first year. Now that they've been open a number of years, they're only generating $50 to $75 million per year apiece. And whenever ING needs to increase its loan portfolio, they simply open up another cafe, and people come in and give its money. Now, I was at a banking conference a number of years ago, and I was on the podium with Arkady Kuhlman, the CEO of ING Direct at the time, and he verified something that I suspected, which is the amount of money that people pay for the coffee, the biscotti, the tchotchkes, everything they can buy in there, covers the cost of the place. Right? They actually have zero cost to be able to generate all of these new accounts. They get infinite ROI on their marketing budget because they created an experience worth having. Now, ING Direct, ING, the parent company, actually got a little trouble in the financial crisis, and the Dutch government had to bail them out, and they actually made them sell ING Direct. So Cap One bought it, and Cap One's gone from zero to now the 5th largest bank in the country through buying ING Direct and a few other banks in that. So now they've rebranded it all Capital One 360 Cafes. There to generate demand for Capital One. And again, when it comes to services, I remember one time I was giving a presentation, about 200 different people in the audience, and after I was done, this woman rushed up to the stage. She said, I got to tell you about my Progressive experience. I talked about Progressive like I did. She said, I didn't used to be a customer of Progressives until I got hit by one. Right? Think about that. Right? She saw what happened to the other person in the audience, or in the accident. She said that if I ever have another accident, I want Progressive to come to my rescue. And so often does that happen that Progressive claims adjusters actually carry around application forms with them in the vehicle to hand out to the other person in the accident or to innocent bystanders. Because again, the experience is the marketing. And you see it where you can generate demand for experiences through marketing experiences as well. Right? So think about Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the experience capital of the world. Right? Everything about it is the experience. And increasingly what they do is they create these great themed casinos like the Bellagio here to be able to generate demand for its tables and then get people to come there. They put in an experience like the fountain show going off every 15 minutes at night. So the people come from all over Las Vegas to experience the fountain show and then naturally walk into the casino to be able to spend their money at the tables, at the shows, at the restaurants that they have in there as well. right? So using that outside experience to generate demand for the inside experience. And you see it in public entities as well. In fact, my partner Jim Gilmore and I give out an Experience Stage of the Year award. And the only time we ever give it to a public company is actually this place here. Anybody recognize it? Right, this is Cerritos Public Library, right here outside of LA. Here, the Cerritos Public Library, the head librarian, Wayne Pearson, now retired, got tired of people telling him that the internet is going to commoditize his business. They're saying, why are people going to go to libraries in the future when you can get every book that's ever been written, you can get every paper that's ever been published, you can get every thought that's ever been thunk over the internet? And he wanted to create a raison d'etre for libraries, so he created what he calls the world's first experience library. And architecturally, it's very distinct. The first use of titanium on any structure in the United States was right here in Cerritos. And then the theme of the Cerritos Library is journey through time, that going to the library ought to be a journey through time. So every area in the library is themed after a different point in time. There's a classic period, there's a modern period, there's an Art Deco period, there's a futurist period. The children's library is themed after a prehistoric period with a life-size Tyrannosaurus Rex dinosaur in there. And then they have all these rituals based off of time as well. So for example, when it's time to close the library, most people most libraries have the problem of shooing people out of all the nooks and crannies that they have in there. Well, here they announce that the Cerritos Library is about to close, and people naturally put away their books and they gather up their stuff, and they come down to the main lobby where there's this huge display screen. And as they all gather around, they play every evening at closing time that scene from the movie The Sound of Music, where the kids are singing, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. And they all go through the motions, they sing along, and they know by the time that last kid sings goodbye that the library is now closed, not to come again another day. And come again they do. In a town of a little over 50,000 people, they have over 3,500 people in the library every single day. 7% of the town's population is in that library every single day. At that same Minnesota Bankers Conference that I was talking about, a gentleman came up to me afterwards. He was actually with the Federal Reserve Bank here in LA. And he told me that the Cerritos Library experience is everything that I say about it. In fact, every Saturday morning he takes his daughter and they go to the Cerritos Public Library and they just spend the morning together, right? They love going through the stacks, reading books and that, bringing back their books, checking out more things. And as he's describing this experience, I asked him, well, how long have you lived in Cerritos? And he said, oh, I don't even live there. I live over a half hour away. Right? So it's actually attracting non-citizens of the city to be able to go there because of the experience. It's the only library I've ever seen with tour bus parking out there. They say Japanese tourists, first they go to Disneyland and then they go to the Cerritos Public Library. And so you see it in colleges as well. Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas really specializes in the recruiting experience. How do we recruit people to come to this particular college? And they do it through this customization concept that I talked about, where you have reserved parking with your name right there on the sign when you come to enjoy the recruiting experience. They give you a welcome that, again, is customized to you, where you have your entire itinerary laid out, and they have all of the swag, the gifts there from Cerritos. Are from Hendrix College that, again, each one of them is customized to you. So ever since they've been doing this, made a tremendous difference in their recruiting experience and in the percent of people that they bring there and whether they want to come to the college or not. And they actually have a long time signature moment, like a Pike Place Fish Market. They have a signature moment at Hendrix that when you're a student there, that whenever it's your birthday, is that they throw you into the main fountain that they have there. And so if you go on a recruiting trip during your birthday also, right, you have to be wary when you walk by that fountain there. It's something that people will never forget. The U.S. Army has its own recruiting experience. Online, and because you can have virtual experiences just like you can have physical marketing experience. Online, you can go to americasarmy.com and download a game. And the game is there to show you what it's like to be in the Army. And if you succeeded that first game, then you can download a second game. And this is now a multi-user game. You get together with several other people on the internet, and you go as a platoon on a mission. And if you succeeded that mission, well, then the Army would like to recruit you. And Colonel Casey Wardinsky, who put this together, says the cost of recruiting people through the America's Army game is 1/10 the cost that it is through advertising. Because the experience is the best way to market, the best way to generate demand today. And so online, you can think about the use of social media. And why do you go on the social media? Because that's where people are. That's where they're spending their time. And we have to figure out how do we engage them across all of the various different social media outlets that are there in order to recruit them to want to have our particular experience. Right? That's important. And Max earlier mentioned Rick Caruso, who's going to be here this afternoon, and he's the one that created the Grove. And whenever I talk to retailers, I talk about how the Grove here at LA is the best retail shopping experience in the world, right? The best shopping center in the world. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. You'll hear from Rick this afternoon. One of the things I love about the Grove, and in addition to how it just sort of rises organically from that decades-old farmer's market that is right there, is that because it has an American Girl place in it. An American Girl place, I think, I see some nodding heads in that, right, is the best retail experience in the world. In fact, the very first year we give out an Experience Stage of the Year award, we gave it to this company, and it's a manufacturer, right? It makes dolls, very high-end dolls that cost about $95, and they're actually situated in various time frames in U.S. history. It was actually founded by a school teacher who wanted to teach girls about American history. She said, well, let's do that with dolls. And as a manufacturer, always worked direct with customers via catalog, eventually over the web and that, but then they just tried to create a place. Right? And it's not a normal store paradigm. This is a retail experience, right? American Girl place. They say that the average person that walks through those doors doesn't leave for over 4 hours. Right? How do you do that? Well, with all these experiences, and in fact, with admission fee experiences. Right? In that store, they had originally a theater, 150-seat theater with a live stage production. We're paying over $30 admission fee for a theater experience where girls, actresses, take on the roles of girls who collect American Girl dolls and then take on the roles of each of these dolls in American history. They have a cafe in there where you have a grown-up dining experience where it costs about $22 for tea, $24 for lunch, $28 for dinner. And as part of that experience, you get your own little place setting for its doll, its own little seat right there at the table with you. They have a doll hospital. They have a hair salon. They have a photo shoot. I can remember when the first American Girl place opened up in Chicago in 1998. My wife flew our 2 daughters to Chicago just to go there. Now, my daughters being exceptional, they spent over 5 hours in the place. And as they got back to the hotel room, they called me up on the phone. They excitedly told me about all these experiences that they had. I began to add it up in my head, and I figured out they spent over $150 in the place without buying a thing, just for the admission fee experiences. And then they brought back huge bags apiece with another doll, more clothing, more books, all as memorabilia for the experience that they had. And what American Girl exemplifies is to understand that when it comes to the experience economy, you are what you charge for. You are what you charge for. If you charge for undifferentiated stuff, you're in the commodities business. If you charge for tangible things, you're in the goods business. If you charge for the activities your people perform, then you're in the services business. But economically, you're in the experience business if and only if you charge for time. The time your customers spend with you. Time is the key differentiator between an experience and a service. If people just want to buy a service from you, then they want it at the greatest possible convenience. They want to spend the least amount of time in there. That's where banking has gone, for example. Right? But if they value the time they spend with you, if they view that as time well spent, right, then you're creating an experience. Right? And it creates that memory within them. So ideally, what you want to do is you actually want to charge for time through an admission fee or a membership fee of some sort. Now, whenever you have one of these economic shifts, companies always tend to give away the next level of value in order to better sell what they have today. Right? As mentioned, I worked for IBM for 13 years, and we had this phrase that IBM means service. And what that meant is that we would give away whatever services you want as long as you bought our hardware goods with our normal exorbitant profit margin, we called it. And eventually, we realized that we unbundled the services from the goods and realized that, in fact, customers valued the services more than the goods. And all of IBM's growth in revenue and profits today is based off a services business as the goods continue to become commoditized. In the same way, most every company today gives away the experience in order to better sell the goods and services that they have. But increasingly, we need to align what we charge for with what our customers value. And that means like American Girl Place, like REI with its admission fee, we need to charge for the experience, charge for the time our customers spend. So you see Volkswagen, for example, creating a theme park outside its factory in Wolfsburg, Germany called Autostadt, where you go in, you pay about 13 euro admission fee, and you get all these pavilions for each one of Volkswagen's brands. And they actually have a special experience that if you mass customize an automobile for Volkswagen and pick it up at Autostadt, they take your vehicle after they produce it and put it in one of these towers that they have there. And then when it's time to pick up your vehicle, they have a robot arm that comes into that tower, picks up your car, and delivers it through the subterraneous tunnel into the showroom as if by magic. And more recently, they actually added a new admission fee experience. On top of the normal admission fee, you get to be the car as it goes through that process. And if you think about it, it's just like the gumball machine, right? And you also see, well, this is the Great Wall of China. I had the opportunity a year ago to take my wife. In fact, there we are at the top of the Great Wall of China. And this actually has nothing to do with an admission fee, but my accountant said if I showed it to you, I'd be able to write it off on my taxes. Actually, I had the opportunity to take my wife to London, too. And there, I asked the concierge, are there any experiences that we should take in? And he said, well, have you been to Vinepolis? I said, no, what's that? Well, he said, well, basically it's a wine store, but they charge admission. I said, oh, well, then we got to go. And we get there, and we realize, well, it's really a museum. Vinepolis, a city of wine. They charge a 10-pound admission fee. As part of that, you get 5 coupons for wine tastings. But you learn about how grapes are grown, how they're turned into wine, the different varieties, different locations around the world in that. And then this being a museum, at the end of it, they dump you into what? Into the gift shop, right? But this isn't any ordinary gift shop. This, in fact, was a cavernous wine store. You know, and I went there thinking it was a wine store that charged admission. I got there, realized it was a museum, but once I got done, I realized, no, it really is a wine store. Right? Put a museum out front and does that admission fee as a signal that this is a place worth experiencing. Right? That's what an admission fee does. It sends a signal that this is a place worth experiencing. And the money you collect then gives you the wherewithal to be able to create a great experience. And here, what you increasingly see in restaurants here in LA, Trois Mec, is a restaurant that actually charges admission for the experience. I first saw it with Next in Chicago, but what you do is you get online and you have to get a ticket. And that ticket here at Trois Mec costs $75, and you have to bring that ticket with you, and then the meal is subsumed within the admission fee of the restaurant. You know, drinks are extra in that. But more and more restaurants are going that, recognizing again the need to align what they charge for with what customers value. That means an admission fee for the time that they spend there. Now, one more thing I want to talk about before we take a break and go on and further looking at the USC experience. And that is to recognize that the experience, as great as it is not the final economic offering. And I think the next one is particularly important for the university environment, for healthcare, and that's because experiences can be commoditized as well. In fact, experiences may be the easiest economic offering to commoditize. So the second time you have an experience doesn't tend to be as good as the first. The third time, not as good as that. And when you get customers saying, been there, done that, that's the hallmark of a commoditized experience. So using the same heuristic where customization is the antidote to commoditization. You know, commoditization is like the law of gravity. It drags you down year after year after year. If you do nothing else, you will be commoditized. Customization automatically differentiates you. You can't be a commodity if you're designing something for this individual living, breathing customer. Just for them, it's automatically differentiated. So what happens when you customize an experience? What happens when you design an experience that's so appropriate for this particular person? Exactly the experience now that they need at this moment in time. Well, you can't help but turn into what we often call a life-transforming experience. In other words, an experience that changes us in some way. And I call that a transformation. And the transformation is the fifth and final economic offering in this progression of economic value. Again, a distinct economic offering where you're now using experiences as the raw material to guide customers to change. You know, many businesses are naturally in the transformation business. Think about fitness centers. Why do people go to fitness centers and endure all of that work, sweat, and pain? Because they think the gain will be worth it. They want to become more fit. They want to go from flabby to fit, for example. Why do people go to psychiatrists and spend several $100s an hour only to be asked, well, what do you think? because they think they'll become better in some way. And why do people go to universities? Right? Why do people go to universities? Is it for the ideas, which are the commodities of the university environment? I mean, all the professors, you have to publish. Right? Everybody has access to the same ideas. No. Is it for the books that you get to buy in the college bookstore, the physical goods of the university environment? No. Is it for the classroom analysis, the homework analysis that professors have to do? No. Is it for that classroom and out-of-classroom experience? Well, that gets closer. But why do people come to universities? Is because they're looking to be transformed. They want to go not just from student to graduate. They want to be a different person. They want to have different skills, different abilities, different knowledge, have a different career, increase their earning potential. All of it is to, in fact, be transformed. One university that recognizes that is the London Business School, where the former dean, John Quelch, once told Fast Company magazine that we're not in the education business, we're in the transformation business. We expect everyone who participates in the program at the London Business School, whether it's for 3 days or for 2 years, to be transformed by the experience. That's a different mindset. That's a different level of economic value. That's a different business that they're in. And when you think about how do we use experiences to transform our customers, to help them achieve their aspirations. So for example, GlaxoSmithKline is actually a drug manufacturer, right? They manufacture goods such as Nicorette. Right, Nicorette gum, Nicorette patches, and so forth. People who buy these goods, they want to be transformed. Right? They want to be transformed from what to what? From smoker to non-smoker. Right? Well, they did a study and found that the people that buy their physical goods, only 24% of them ever achieve that aspiration of quitting smoking. Right? It's pitiful, 24%. So what they do is they decided to surround the physical goods with a transformation program they called Committed Quitters, an individualized stop smoking program. Well, now where they actually interview people going into it. Why do you want to quit smoking? When do you most crave a cigarette? What are the obstacles you have to overcome? And they design an entire 8-week program for them, centered around the Nicorette product. And then at the end of that study, they found that they had a 50% greater likelihood of them quitting smoking when they viewed it as a transformation instead of as merely we sell these goods. And we get our money whether or not they achieve their aspiration. And that's a key thing, aligning what they charge for with what customers value. Mid-Columbia Medical Center in the healthcare industry that I mentioned earlier, this is their Celilo Cancer Center that they created. And the entire purpose of Celilo is to reduce stress in their patient lives. They recognize that stress is one of the biggest contributors to cancer and one of the reasons that people can't recover from it as well. So they have outside this labyrinth, right? It's not a maze, it's a labyrinth. There's only one path through there, and it's to give you mindfulness, as they call it. You walk in the doors there, they have a harp player. They call it musical thanatologist. And you look up the word thanatologist and what that means. And that harp player has one role. It's actually trying to lower your heart rate, to reduce the stress that you have. Every procedure that you get to have waiting rooms that look out over the Oregon mountains. And then every person that goes for a procedure can have a jacuzzi or a massage, right? That's basically a spa as part of your cancer procedure, right? And that improves the outcomes, right? Again, it's all about the outcomes that the experience creates. Tech Shop here is another one of our Experience Stage of the Year Award winners in San Francisco. They're actually coming here to LA, to the Reef, not too far from here, I believe. But basically what this is that it's like $2 million of all the machine things that you can make anything, right? It's for the maker's movement. So you got access to CNC routers, to bandsaws, to water jets, to laser cutters, to 3D printers, all the atom hacking equipment, and you can make anything in there. And people are transformed by the ability to make things that were never before possible. Many companies, many entrepreneurs are creating entire businesses out of it. In fact, in the healthcare field, the Embrace baby blanket, where there's going to be able to provide these to third world companies that do not have access to incubators. And they figured out how to make this. They figured out chemical properties of things to be able to heat up the blanket and have it stay warm to become an incubator. And they think it's going to save over 100,000 babies' lives over 5 years. Because of being able to figure all that out, collaborate with other people, learn things at Tech Shop. So it's really a life-transforming experience. And it's all about aspirations. It's all about helping customers achieve their aspirations through the experiences that they have. And when you think of aspirations, think of that formulation that I use, from blank to blank. Where are they today? What do they aspire to become? And how do we help them achieve that? With transformations, understand that the customer is the product. The customer is the product. Doesn't matter all those activities we do. Doesn't even matter about the time they spend with us. The question is, did they get to achieve their aspiration? Right? The customer is the product. In the healthcare industry, one company that I've worked with personally, Heartland Health in St. Joseph, Missouri, took as its theme, live life well. They want to transform people and transform the entire community environment of St. Joseph and increasingly elsewhere about helping people live life well. Right? That's what it's about. Not just about healing from diseases, but how do you live life well? And so they've created an entire new brand, Mosaic Life Care, they call it. Right? Not healthcare, but for helping people live life well, it's about life care. The CEO, Dr. Mark Lehner, talks about aspirations. Right? The dreams and aspirations live in us all. We all want something better out of life. By changing healthcare to life care, we can all have it. We can take those dreams and aspirations and develop a roadmap, a life plan, which they do for every individual patient, customized to them, that helps them set milestones and goals. And the best part is that we'll be there right with you so you don't have to do it alone. Right? They become their partners in life care. Here's a little video.
What could happen if we look at healthcare from a completely different perspective? If the experience was reimagined, reinvented, and re-engineered? What if the concept of healthcare became more about life care? Enter Mosaic Life Care, a reimagined, reinvented, re-engineered approach to healthcare. It's an approach that frames the doctor's office inside a vibrant life care center. It's a model that introduces you to new caregivers, like a life guide and life coach. And it's an experience that emphasizes customized comfort. Here at Mosaic, it's the physicians who lead us. But we follow a philosophy based on the heart, mind, and spirit. And we make distinctions between treating life, treating health, and treating illness. At the core of our approach is the life care model. And as part of it, we learn about your aspirations. We talk about health improvement and life improvement. And we help you achieve transformational change. Our method is unique, which is why we do things differently. Like offering you a customized life plan. Because doing things differently means understanding that we all have different goals. My life plan pairs you with a life coach, and together you work toward goals relating to not just health, but also lifestyle, career, finances, creativity, relationships, and spirituality. And while we like to focus on preventing illness, we're also experts at treating it. As members of the Mayo Clinic Care Network, we give our caregivers access to some of the most powerful medical resources in the world. Wellness is more than just being well. It's about living life well. Welcome to a new forward-thinking approach to healthcare. More than healthcare. Life care. Welcome to Mosaic Life Care.
Everything that I've talked about this morning, you can see in that video that this is what they're doing. They're moving from healthcare to life care, creating transformational experiences based on customizing this down to the individual patient, as well as incorporating their family in there. And that's the direction that we need to go in healthcare. If you think about guiding transformations, it is centered on the experience, right? Transformations are built on top of experiences. Generally not one life-transforming experience, generally a series of experiences that a person undergoes. And in order to figure out, well, what are exactly the right experiences for this particular person? Not all of them clinical experiences in healthcare, not all of them, classroom experiences in the university environment, but you need some sort of diagnosis. What does this particular person aspire to become? Where are they today? And then design the set of experiences that will yield that transformation that they are looking for. But you also need something else. You need follow-up. Right? Follow-up. It's not like follow-through, which is, you need follow-through. It's not follow-up, which is like, hi, how you doing? Right? It's follow-through. It's ensuring. Ensuring that the transformation takes hold is what you need to do. I mean, if you go through the Committed Quitters program, and you go through that 8-week program, and you quit smoking, but 3 weeks later you light up again, you really weren't transformed. You've got to follow through. And it leads into lifelong learning. It needs into a relationship with individual patients and their family members to be able to create that follow-through to ensure that a person actually transforms as a result. One company that was founded based off of reading our book, Gary Adamson, founded Storizon when he always points to page 193 of the original Experience Economy. There we talked about what would management consulting do if they viewed themselves as in the experience and transformation business. And he did that. He created this experience design place in Keystone, Colorado to transform his customers into premier experience stagers. Get them out of the normal environment, bring them up here to Keystone, and then let's go through and create an experience plan. The Mosaic Life Care was created at Storizon. And what Gary does is, in fact, he has what he calls his transformation guarantee. 25% of Storizon's fees are completely at the client's discretion. They can pay all of it or they can pay none of it based on, did Storizon do what they said they would do? Did you get the transformation that you wanted out of it? And over a decade of business, only 2 clients have ever not paid that entire 25% transformation guarantee because it aligns what Storizon does with what the customers value. And that's a different way of charging. Right? You are what you charge for again. We talked how important it is to charge for time, but what do you charge for with transformations? You charge for outcomes. Outcomes, ideally the demonstrated outcome that the customer achieves, because again, the customer is the product. That's all that truly matters when you're in the transformation business, that the customer achieves their aspiration. And we're going to see more and more as companies going towards outcome-based compensation. Right, you think about this age-old formula. I think it was Ben Franklin, right, one of our nation's founders, that first came up with this formulation of how do we help people become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Right? Healthy, the basis of healthcare. Wise, the basis of the university experience that they have there. And I think what happens here has a lot to do with how wealthy a person comes in their life as well. And in each one of these things, you see more and more where compensation is becoming outcomes-based. Right? The government wants to increasingly pay healthcare based on the outcomes that they achieve. There's a movement in university environments to base the tuition on outcomes that the customer achieves, which again gets you into lifelong learning. What do they achieve after they leave here? What's the follow-through that you do so that you, in fact, get paid based on the outcomes that are being achieved? And that is increasingly going to be important. There is a movement to be able to do this, and I think it would be great to get ahead of that movement and lead in thinking about how do we actually charge for the demonstrated outcomes that our customers achieve, whether they be students, whether they be patients and family members. And the reason is because this is, again, what's going on in the world. So let me simply close by saying that you can stay in the illusory safety of past practices and keep on doing the same things you've always been doing, then mark my words, you will be commoditized. Or you can shift up this progression of economic value to staging experiences and perhaps even guiding transformations for each one of your individual customers, and then you'll be economically rewarded. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, we're going to take a 15-minute break, make that a 12-minute break. If you could all be back in your seats at 10 a.m., that would be great. Thank you.
Good morning. Let's give another round of applause to the USC Thornton Percussion Ensemble. And thanks to Dean Cudietta for helping us out this morning. It's a nice surprise to enliven our morning just a bit, isn't it? Nothing like drums to get us off on a good start. Although it's a little hard to follow Joe Pine. But it's my honor today to introduce the USC Stories section. Today we're going to hear from 6 panelists, all of whom have stories to share. The hospitality experience, the student experience, the admissions and conversion experience, and lastly, the patient experience. My role today is really just to set up this panel of accomplished individuals who all have various constituents, very different. but all of us have the same mandate to deliver a first-class experience. Sorry, Joe, I mean transformation. So I wondered how I would do that today. What is the through line for me? So I'll speak from my own experience. You know, I grew up in the theater and eventually became a producer and a director and an event producer. So my ultimate point of view and point of reference is always the audience. What is the expectation of the audience, and how do you deliver on that expectation? But it's not about just delivering on the expectation, it's actually surpassing that expectation. And for me, it's essentially a big formula. What does the audience want and expect? How do you want them to feel before, during, and at the end of the experience? And ultimately, what is the emotional takeaway? That's what we're all here for, I believe, the emotional takeaway, or as Joe calls it, the transformation. So the experience really starts long before the experience. It starts at the expectation. So I'm going to give you a little scenario that you've all experienced in one form or another, but please adapt it to your own area of expertise, whether it's housing, dining services, events, admissions, patient care, parents programs. So you and your friend hear that a famous production of Phantom of the Opera is coming to town, or whatever show you want. You call each other to see if you can get tickets because John Doe Superstar is appearing in this production. And this will be an expensive night for sure, but it'll be a once-in-a-lifetime event. And you get tickets, but not just any tickets. You score tickets in the 8th row center orchestra on opening night. And it's 2 months away, but that's okay, because that'll give you 2 months to talk about it together, to do some research on the show and the story, to talk about the cast, who else is in the show. The date grows near, and you think that it would be a great idea if maybe we had dinner beforehand. And why not splurge? You know, this is going to be a great evening that you're both going to remember. So the night arrives, and you decide to dress up to the nines. No jeans tonight, that's for sure. You go to dinner at Shea something or other, and then it's fantastic. And then you head down the street to a theater like the Pantages. And the theater is a very, very ornate palace. You give your tickets to the usher at the door. You even see a few celebrities standing around in the foyer. You decide to have a drink before the show starts so that you have just the right amount of giggly on before the curtain goes up. You look around, you look up those grand staircases, up in the ceiling, and boy, is it grand. Beyond what you ever thought a theater could look like, more like something out of an MGM movie. You go down the aisle to the best seats in the house, plush red velvet seats, and some people think they recognize you simply by where you're seated that night. The entire audience moves into the theater and sits in a very unnatural thing, regimented rows, all facing forward. You feel a collective excitement building, and the crowd is really quite boisterous. Then the lights slowly dim to half, and the audience goes almost quiet when all of a sudden a conductor comes up out of the pit and a spotlight hits her, and the audience starts applauding. And then the overture starts playing those wonderful tunes that you've heard, that you've known, and you've been waiting months to hear live. Then the house lights dim out except for that beautiful red curtain with the gold fringe. And there's not a sound in the entire audience as you focus on a large frame around the stage, and then slowly, ever so slowly, those red lights fade, getting everyone ready for the curtain to rise and the experience to begin. When in reality, they have been a part of that experience for over 2 months. So what is the point of all of this? We haven't even seen one moment of the play yet. That is the point. The expectation, the buildup, is as much a part of the experience as the experience itself. They are not separate. Success only happens when the actual experience meets or exceeds the actual expectation. Each of us, each of my colleagues, panelists on this stage, understands this concept. So whether you're a 10th grade student in a high school in the middle of the country, looking at colleges for the first time, or a patient thinking about where they are going to get the best respect and the best care for them or their family, or a prospective parent who visits the campus for another event long before their child is even considering college. The experience starts long before you ever meet them at the door. Let's listen to our colleagues tell their stories. Thank you.
Very nice. Well, Dennis Cornell's a tough act to follow, and I got so involved in his story, I've forgotten everything I was going to tell you. So, thanks for having me today, and I'm excited to talk to you about auxiliary services and what the auxiliary services team does at USC. Talk to you about some of our challenges, some of our successes, talk a little bit about our goals, how we want to empower our frontline workers, and how we really want to create different experiences at USC. So through this, I'm going to talk briefly about our culture, how we use it, how we developed a mission, the need for it, what it means to us, and then share a couple really cool stories with you. But before I start, I just want to let you know that this is a topic that's really near and dear to me. And I go back to my senior year in high school. I was traveling all over the country, visiting different colleges and universities. And my last stop was USC. And I can still remember that day that I came to USC. Had never stepped ground, although I grew up in Orange County. So I come to USC, and I step on the ground for the first time. And every single thing that day went perfect. It was unbelievable. Every memory I have, I'll never forget. And it was part of that experience that changed where I thought I was going to go to come to USC. So fast forward now a bunch of years, and to think that me, along with our team, has something to do with creating that experience on a day-to-day basis and the impact that that can have on students, on parents, on patients, really on anyone. It could be a simple visitor, a staff, a faculty, it could be anyone. So I'm excited to share with you a little bit about what auxiliary services is, just in case you don't have it, and I'll share a couple stats with you as well. So let's see here. Auxiliary services is comprised of the bookstore, of housing, transportation, hospitality, the hotel, and the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and Sports Arena. The bookstore has over 2 million customer interactions each year, and they do that through their websites and their 10 different retail locations. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum and Sports Arena had over 700,000 guests last year at the different events that we hosted. That's Pearl Jam last year. USC Hospitality serves over 3.5 million customers each year. They do that through their 41 eateries and their conferencing and catering. USC runs the Radisson Hotel across the street, and Joe, I hope your stay with us is going well. Last year, we had 100,000 hotel guests that stayed in our 240 renovated rooms. USC Housing has over 56 buildings, and we house over 7,000 students. And transportation had over 1.5 million guest interactions last year through USC's entrances, through our buses, and through our campus cruiser program. So all in all, last year, auxiliary services had over 9 million customer interactions. And to be completely honest with you, not all of them are at the level of experience that we want. It's quite challenging when you run a business that's 24 hours, 7 days a week. So taking on those challenges, we looked at how do we go about creating the best experiences. So about 10 years ago, right at the same time USC was evolving from a commuter campus to more of a residential environment, we established a goal that we wanted to have goods and services that were consistent with the prospective students and our students and their parents' expectation of USC. So we collectively sat down and said, how are we going to do this? And we decided that we needed to come up with a new mission statement that would empower our entire team to create transformational experiences. So about 10 years ago, we created a new mission. It was to create the best USC experience. Our mission needed to be something that we could communicate from management all the way to front line, no matter what type of business that you were in. If you were focused on creating the best USC experience, you weren't going to make a mistake. You were going to go towards our goal. We decided what was the best way to get the message across to over 2,300 employees that we have in auxiliaries. And of those 2,300 employees, 1,100 are students. So we developed core values of best people, best product, and best service. So our alignment was, if you're focused on creating the best USC experience through the best people, the best products, and the best service, we'll have the best shot at meeting our goal. When we started with the best people, we had to really look at the right employee type. For our best people, it starts at our recruiting process and our screening process. So once we identify that we have the right candidate who's the right employee type to help us meet our goals, we set our expectations. In detail, expectations of what USC parents and students expect, of what peers expect, and what the individual department level expects. We bring them into the USC family, and we do this through repeated orientations, through repeated onboarding, and repeated training. And we train beyond the day-to-day standards of what the job is expected to do. We talk often about this isn't what you're expected every single day to do, it's the special things that create the experiences above and beyond that. Then we recognize and reward for successes that we see in the workplace. We get stories all the time from our customers, both good and bad, and it's amazing what we see. So we reward through our recognition program on those successes. For those that aren't always successes, we also have to coach and counsel. It's an opportunity for us to reorientate, retrain, communicate honestly about what's working and what's not working, but it's a critical piece to turning the momentum from a bad situation into a good situation. Our focus is we must deliver on the USC brand. This is what is expected, and this is what we have to do on a day-to-day basis. I do want to share a really cool story about one of our USC employees who did deliver on the USC brand, and they were a phenomenal ambassador to USC. And the story is about an employee at the hotel, Alan Tate. Alan wasn't actually at the hotel when he was, acting as an ambassador for USC. He was actually on one of the buses through transportation headed to Union Station. Minding his own business, sitting there, he recognized a family of 3 people, a mom and dad and about a 17-year-old son that looked like they were lost. So Alan asked them if they knew where they were going, and indeed they were lost. You can imagine going to Union Station. If you're not from here, it's very overwhelming. So he helped them find the right train to get on, and it happened to be the train that Alan was getting on as well. So through the train ride out to San Bernardino, they had a lot of conversation, and it ended up being that the 17-year-old Tyson had been accepted to USC, and the family was visiting from Iowa. Never having been out of Iowa, this brand new world for Tyson, parents were very apprehensive. Is this the right place? Can we trust sending him all the way across, the nation to USC? And Alan explained his experience working at USC and what he knows of it. He talked about the USC culture, about the Trojan family, and they got to know each other. At the end of the train ride, the family and Alan exchanged contact information, and a couple months later, the dad called Alan to say that Tyson had decided indeed to go to USC. He also said, will you please keep an eye on Tyson because we're all the way in Iowa and we're quite nervous about him coming. So indeed, Alan did that. Over the course of 4 years, he kept a relationship and in contact with Tyson, and Tyson ended up joining the Trojan marching band and graduating, and now his younger brother is here as well, and his youngest brother has intentions of coming here. So that type of ambassador of the brand is exactly what we're looking for, and I think that's a great example of Alan's primary focus, his day-to-day responsibilities, is in the hotel. This had nothing to do with his day-to-day responsibilities. This had to do with how do you promote the brand and how do you create an experience for parents and a prospective student. Auxiliaries looks at how USC goes about its core business and tries to find ways that we can support that. USC is competing for the very best students with the very best colleges and universities every single day. So we sit back and we say, as an auxiliary, how do we do that through what we manage? We constantly are reviewing what are the expectations of prospective students and parents. Where do people that are USC people shop and eat? What franchises and business do business the USC way? And we're looking at this in every single one of our organizations to make sure we have good alignment. How do we go and make memories for people? How do we make memories through transformational experiences? So some of the examples I want to share with you of how I think we do this and we do this well, and you may not be aware of it, are from our housing group. And we partner closely with Student Affairs in our housing, and I just want to share with you some of the things that they do. In housing, there's 19 special interest floors, and they're broken up based off of characteristics of the people that live there. Some of the cultural theme floors include the Latino floor, the Somerville floor, the Rainbow floor, and the Shalom floor. Our Muslim floor in housing, for example, has foot bathtubs built in so that it helps them follow their religious practices. Housing has thematic floors as well, and some of those thematic floors are health and wellness, the music floor, the great outdoors floor, the women in science and engineering floor, and it has a cinema floor that each year they have a film festival called the Ed Wood Film Festival, and students make 5-minute films and then show those to their peers, and they elect a celebrity panel of judges to come in each year and rank the films. So it's a pretty immersive environment that you could be studying cinema here, living on a cinema floor, and within that cinema floor, you're having a film festival each year. In our hospitality group, to better align the programs that they have in place, in 2010, they changed the meal plan to be an unlimited dining plan. What we had seen was student behavior and eating was going from you have 10 card swipes that you can eat 10 times in a dining facility to I may want to grab a banana on the way to class, a bagel on the way back to my room, yogurt on the way to the next class, and it was more of an all-day grazing program. So our hospitality staff changed the meal plan to be unlimited to meet those needs, and we've actually seen consumption of food go down. We built exhibition cooking stations in all of our residential dining halls because what we saw was an evolution of students who once were just eating food to now we're watching Food Network, we're cooking themselves, and we're complete foodies. So our clientele completely changed, and because of that, we changed our style and how we give them their food. So in every one of our halls at the exhibition cooking stations, there's rotating menus where students can interact with our culinary staff, see how something's made, see what it's made of, and then enjoy it. We changed our purchasing standards in hospitalities. We went local, sustainable, and organic. Made a decision to no longer have frozen produce. We only buy fresh produce from local farmers now. And a really cool program at EVK is something they call garden parties, where the EVK garden is harvested by students and some of the hospitality team frequently, and they get to enjoy the harvest, and then they replant it with whatever crops in season at that point. So we get them involved in all levels of the hospitality. So we're constantly looking at how do we create these experiences going forward, and how do we exceed students' and parents' expectations. We do monitor ourselves to make sure we're continuously improving. We constantly are reflecting, are we creating value, and ideally, can we charge for that value? We continue to evolve to a residential campus, and there's some exciting new projects that are coming up that support that. The biggest, by far, is the USC Village project. So I just want to talk a little bit about how that's going to transform USC even more to a residential environment. We're building over 2,500 new beds of student housing in residential colleges. It will be the home to the new McCarthy Honors College. About 500 students will live in this honors college. And for the first time in USC housing, if you're living in an honors college as a freshman, you'll have the option to move into the sophomore wing of the honors college as well. The same student who's coming to us now is the same student who grew up reading Harry Potter, watching the Harry Potter movies. The residential dining hall in the Honors College will be a Harry Potter-esque looking dining hall. It's really cool. They're building over 100,000 square feet of retail focused on the needs of the USC family, with such brands as Trader Joe's and focusing the restaurant selection on those brands that meet the needs of the students. If any of you have ever been to the Lion Center on any day, any time during the day, any part of the night, you'll realize that we have more demand for workout facilities than we have capacity at the Lion Center. The new village will add over 20,000 square feet of state-of-the-art workout space. The village really becomes our next step of being able to create more success stories. Going forward, we will reemphasize our focus on empowering all of our employees to make decisions without approvals. If you have the opportunity to make a decision, even at the front line, that has, without having to ask for approval, that helps to create the best USC experience, we want to empower them to make those decisions. It's a huge challenge. With 2,300 employees, we're not always perfect, and we realize that. We do strive to get better and better, but we need to continue to evolve our culture to meet our customers' needs. I'd like to share with you just one more story quickly that I think is representative of what we want to do, and it's really representative of an employee making a decision without having approval, but really creating a unique transformational experience for some parents. And this story took place at the Starbucks on campus. We had a couple employees who were working at the Starbucks, and they recognized parents that were in line ordering drinks. And these parents were in town because their son had been critically injured and was at the hospital in really bad shape. So the parents were here visiting to take care of their son and to meet with USC, as you can imagine, completely distraught. When they got to the register to pay for their drinks, that employee had recognized them as these parents, and she simply said, "You have enough to worry about right now with what's going on with you and your family. That drink is on USC." We heard from the parents numerous times. They kept going back to the Starbucks during their visit. But I'll tell you, we talk about stories when we're meeting with our team all the time, because that's the exact type of story and that's the exact type of action that we want them to feel empowered to take. If we can do that more, I'll be thrilled. And if I look back to why I came here, I didn't get free coffee, but it was experiences throughout my trip here that really, sealed the deal. And meeting Jim Ellis, that was the other big part for me. But I appreciate, having a couple minutes to talk to you about what, Auxiliaries organization does and really what we're striving to do. And I thank you for your time. Wrong slide.
Andrew, you ready to roll?
Ready.
Now, I did tell you in preparing that there'd be about 100 people here, right?
There's a little more.
Just a little bit
You
more.
told me. That's okay, though.
Well, good deal. My name is Ainsley Carey, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice Provost for Student Affairs. So as I begin to frame the student experience, I'd like to give a little background about the Division of Student Affairs. The Division of Student Affairs is composed about 300 employees working in 15 different departments kind of spread throughout campus. We are structurally focused on students. We have student health and wellness, student support and advocacy, student engagement, career services, and the residential education experience. We see ourselves serving a population of 40,000 students, 18,000 undergraduates, and more than 21,000 graduate students. 7,000 of these students live right here on campus, and more than 15,000 students live within walking distance of our campus. We are working with our students and parents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We see our primary responsibility as creating the student experience. To help me frame that student experience, I've invited our student body president, Andrew Menard, to talk about student and parent expectations of the student who enrolls at USC.
Thank you, Dr. Carey. I have to be honest, I don't think there's a university out there that really sells itself better than USC. And after Dennis Cornell's introduction, it inspired me to preface what I'm going to talk about this morning with a quick story on my first experience with USC. It was actually my senior year of high school, and I came up for a game day. And really, it wasn't the thrilling one-point victory that we had over Arizona State that made that day so memorable, but it quite literally represented my first step into the world of USC. And you know, when students come to USC, they know that they're coming to a world-class institution. So naturally, there are world-class expectations. These expectations are driven by the kind of students we recruit, the schools that students compare USC to, and also the ever-increasing price of tuition. Now, USC, there are so many exciting developments and initiatives that have been completed and that are in the process of being completed that students are very thankful for. Just to highlight a few, the new Student Health Center has been a wonderful resource that Dr. Curie is going to talk about in a little bit. The new Annenberg building, Daughtreef Hall, students have an opportunity to really learn and lead the world with just the fascinating work and research that the facilities provide for them. And of course, the $650 million University Village project, I mean, that is going to completely create an unparalleled student experience and really hit that level of expectation. But of course, there are also areas where we can continue to work to achieve those levels of expectations. As some of you guys may know, Levy Library has been a center in the center of attention for students these past couple years. The undergraduate student government released a survey where we surveyed nearly 1,800 students about Levy Library, and the responses were that 3% said that it met their academic needs, and 93% would like to see a renovation. And renovation items included better access to outlets for electricity, an improved heating and cooling system, some of the equipment to hopefully be updated. And this summer, I mean, students were thrilled at the progress that USC made. I mean, not only did they achieve all of the renovations that we were hoping for, but they also installed state-of-the-art collaborative study space and classrooms in the basement and the first floor where the renovations took place. So, and it really provided that wow factor that students were looking for with our only 24/7 library. We're excited to continue those renovations to the second, third, and fourth floor. Another expectation that students have when they come to USC is entertainment. Los Angeles is the entertainment capital of the world, but at times we struggle bringing in the professional and musical talent that our students expect. In an effort to revamp our security precautions at some of these events, USC has understandably required that we provide fencing, security, or DPS and campus security. Unfortunately, though, those expenses that are mandated, the entirety of the cost is coming out of the student programming fee, and so it makes it challenging for our Welcome Back concert, Conquest, and Springfest. When you add up those costs, that's about $45,000 that are out of the programming fee that we're paying for security, when we really would love to see that bring in some of the top talent that our students expect. And so, I know there are fee discussions going on right now, and so we're really excited, and we hopefully would like to see just a slight increase in our student programming fee so that we can help cover those costs and continue to really meet student expectations when it comes to entertainment that we're able to bring on campus.
As Andrew mentioned, our students and parents have high expectations when they enroll at USC. A key point that he mentioned is that these students are comparing us to peer institutions. These students are paying attention to tuition. And it doesn't escape them that we're in the midst of a $6 billion capital campaign. So our students come to campus with very high expectations, and our parents come to campus with very high expectations. So what are we doing in the world of student affairs to attempt to achieve those student expectations? Well, in the Division of Student Affairs, we're looking at Pine's text, Joseph Pine's text, about the experience economy. And we pulled one principle out of that book and said, what if we focused on making this principle happen? And that principle is the elimination of customer sacrifice. So what is customer sacrifice? Customer sacrifice is the gap between what our students and parents expect and what they actually settle for. Not what they actually achieve or what we actually deliver, but what they end up at the end of the day settling for. This is the customer sacrifice. Let me offer a few examples. Right now, our hours of operation do not align with students' hours of operation. We are a global research university. We are enrolling students and we are involved with parents all over the world. We operate on a time schedule of about 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. For our students and parents on the other side of the globe, on other parts of the world, they sometimes have accepted the sacrifice that they'll have to stay up until 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning to actually communicate with one of our offices. This is a customer sacrifice that they have settled for because they don't believe that there's anything that we can do to change that. Let me offer another example. We enroll about 7,000 students in online education, and we've promised those students that they will have full access to the USC Experience. Those students pay full tuition, but we know that we have not created the full USC Experience for that population. They don't have access to the support services that the on-ground students have. These students taking our courses online have settled with this is the expectation. This is customer sacrifice. The gap between what students expect when they enroll and what they actually settle for at the end of the day. So what are we doing in the world of student affairs to deal with this? We've asked ourselves two questions. If we were to think about customer sacrifice and we were to eliminate one dimension of the customer sacrifice, how will that increase the value of the student experience? The second question we asked ourselves, what could we package and what could we customize to increase the value of the student experience? So let me tell you how this train of thought has impacted the work that we do in student health services. So in student health services nationally, we have seen a great demand for student health on college campuses. Many of you have gone to institutions, you may remember the infirmary, which was kind of a doc-in-a-box setup. We had very little expectations about student health 25 and 30 years ago. When parents evaluate the institutions they're sending their kids to today, they think about the student health services and how comprehensive we are. And this is a national expectation. So we have moved from infirmaries to full-fledged student health centers on campus. Now, at USC, up until the 1980s, USC was relatively a commuter campus. We had about 3,500 students living on, and just a few more thousand students living near campus. Therefore, our student health infrastructure was designed for a residential community. Our student health services were separated into 8 separate buildings on campus. The halls were narrow, and oftentimes our doctors would be working with patients in the hallways, taking blood pressures, sometimes providing immunization in hallways. Our trustee Ingeman remembers the days when she actually had a flu shot in the hallway, and that inspired the movement that she made to make Ingeman Student Health Center happen. We have been seeing an increase in the demand for quality student health on campus for the past 30 years. Over this time, we've seen student visits to our student health services go from 35,000 per year to now more than 103,000 visits in our student health facilities. We've also seen immunization requests go from 500 per year to more than 20,000 requests for immunization. We've also seen our call center increase to 60,000 calls in a year. There's a great demand for our student health experience, and our students are extremely appreciative of what we've done in the Ingeman Student Health Center. And I've asked Andrew to describe a little bit more about how changing that experience from going to 8 separate buildings and moving it all into one building and providing that package of services for students, how has that transformed the student experience?
Well, just being a senior, when I was a freshman, we didn't have that beautiful facility. So I think for a lot of students, it really has provided an opportunity to just simplify the process of getting access to services. I mean, not only do we have a facility that aesthetically is beautiful, and obviously that helps when you're in a health condition, but it also just it makes locating everything in the same place just makes the process so easy when people are going through obviously very traumatic experiences. So I've heard from hundreds of students who have benefited from just the simplicity of the process now and all the accesses or all the resources that are available.
Thank you. So in 2013, we opened the Engelman Student Health Center, and that changed the student experience. The key part of how it changed the student experience is not only the facility that's beautiful and magnificent that students have access to, but we have also packaged student health care in one facility. In the past, students had to use or visit 8 different buildings in order to access all the student health services they needed. Now, all of those services are packaged into one facility. So students can meet with doctors, counselors, wellness experts throughout the same facility. Now, of course, a beautiful new building changes everything, and that has a lot to do with the quality of the experience that happened. But I don't want to underestimate the work that actually packaging the experience in the same place has changed. We want to take the story about packaging one step further. The other thing that we're working on right now in student health is what we call prescription for exercise. So in the past, student health was divided into doctors, counselors, nutritionists, and exercise specialists. All of those individuals interacted with students separately, with the exception of maybe doctors and counselors who communicated about care that was provided for individual students. In prescription for exercise, we're trying to combine all of these things to design a customized approach to working with individual students. Prescription for exercise is a day when the doctors, counselors, nutritionists, and exercise specialists talk about the care for an individual student and then provide that individual student with a prescription for exercise. We know today that student ailments, the common colds, stress, anxiety, weight loss, weight gain, is related to a number of factors in the student's experience. Medication, in some cases, is one solution, but we also know mindfulness, meditation, exercise, yoga, walking, jogging, changing their nutritional patterns also adds to the student's ability to deal with stress, anxiety, hypertension, weight loss, and weight gain. So a prescription for exercise is actually taking a package of services that students already receive and then customizing that package by linking them stronger and giving that information to students all at one time. Today, students experience these as separate engagements. In the future, we would like to connect them where the student meets with the doctor, talks to the counselor, meets with the nutritionist, and then has a prescription for exercise in the end. And if we can package it, we eliminate the transaction and we eliminate a sacrifice that our students have to experience right now. So in the world of student affairs, what we are doing to focus on improving the student experience is focusing on places where we can eliminate the student sacrifice by customizing and packaging the work that we do. Thank you.
Good morning. Dan, I'd like you to introduce me to Alan so I can thank him. And I'd also like to say that Jim Ellis and I co-chaired the search committee that brought Ainsley Carey to USC. Look, man, I'm going to take it where I can get it, all right? At USC, we have the most complex recruiting operation in the country, perhaps in the world. We operate on a 17-month recruitment cycle, so we are constantly involved in 2 overlapping cycles. Each fall, our admissions counselors visit more than 2,000 high schools in all 50 states and in 15 countries. We touch more than 25,000 individual students in those efforts. We send literally millions of personalized communications to students. This year we received 52,000 applications and read every one of them, including reading more than 80% 2 or 3 times. We host more than 100 conversion events all over the world, more than 50 events in the 30 days of the month of April last year, to convert admitted students to enrolled students. The reason that we do that is that we believe undergraduate recruitment is about building relationships. It's about students and parents and high school counselors getting to know USC. It's about USC getting to know students. In short, the most effective way to recruit outstanding undergraduate students is one student at a time. It's not very efficient, however. But each of our academic units operationalize this one student at a time in ways that are calibrated to their own unique needs and goals. This year we have an extraordinary example of this relationship building, recruiting one student at a time approach in the recruitment of the first freshman class for the Iovine Young Academy. And so I'm simply here to introduce Dean Erica Mull, who is going to tell you how they did it.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, everyone. I want to especially thank whoever did the seating today for giving me a complete table of deans for prime heckling mode right up there. Thanks, guys. So the Iovine Young Academy is what I like to call the bumblebee of undergraduate programs. In the real world of higher education, it would never fly. Only at a university that is as forward-thinking as USC, and with a president like C.L. Max Nikias, could this have ever come about. But the success story that I want to talk to you about today is not really the creation of the program. It's actually about the recruitment of its first class, which presented a number of new challenges. Why? Well, of course, it's a brand new program. It's also a very different program, which makes it somewhat difficult to explain to parents. Further, it's aimed at students who, because of their experiences in middle school and high school, have already decided that the traditional major is not for them. So as a result, in recruiting our first class, we were actually tasked with finding and selling this degree to students who were looking primarily for one thing: a program that demonstrated its intention to do things differently in every possible way and at every possible juncture. That's an incredibly tall order. We also knew that along with everything else that we had to get across, we had to make these students feel special, and as though there was truly no institution on earth quite like USC. So just by way of a little background, the Academy focuses on the creative and innovative possibilities at the intersections of disciplines, in particular, the intersection of design, engineering, and business. And in recruiting for the program, we were looking for students who demonstrated the following profile. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty broadly crafted list of attributes ranging from ability in the arts to ability with subjects that require extensive math and science to demonstrated capacity as an entrepreneur and leader. Further, as you can see, there are some real intangibles here. Curiosity, initiative, and my personal favorite, an ability to accept periodic failure as an essential component of innovation. Try to explain that to a parent. So how are we going to find this? And if we did find it, how are we going to evaluate it? Meaning, what were we going to ask for that was going to help us find this collection of unusual talents and abilities? Well, of course, we had the Common Application, which means we had USC's essay prompts, we had grades, we had test scores, we had letters of rec, we had writing samples. This gave us, of course, an enormous amount of information, and yet with all of this information, we knew we needed more. So we also asked for a creative portfolio, and we hoped that this would tell us two things. First, had they been in an environment for a good portion of their lives that encouraged and nurtured creative thinking and risk-taking? And two, were they visual communicators? The world is rapidly becoming more and more visual. As you know, media and images surround everything we do on a daily basis. As you've all seen, it's not just email, Facebook, and Twitter anymore. It's now Instagram, Vimeo, Vine, Snapchat, and of course, YouTube. These are very powerful and persuasive marketing and communication tools, and an ability to understand and effectively utilize these tools is now a core competency for every entrepreneur. The third thing that we asked for is a 1-minute pitch video. And up here you'll actually see the prompt that we gave the students for the pitch video. Basically, we were asking for something that was under 60 seconds in length, and the students needed to demonstrate an idea for a product, a service, a system, something that either solved a problem or presented an opportunity. We left it very broad. It could be for-profit, not-for-profit. So by giving them some parameters, but leaving the parameters quite general in other ways, we gave them the room to show us who they really were. We also gave them enough rope to hang themselves. I have to say the videos told us more about our applicants than any other element of the submission package. Let me show you just one of the amazing videos that we got, and you'll see. This particular video is a pitch for a product for a growing segment of the blogging demographic known as vloggers, because they blog on video.
Without the time, funds, and technical training, vloggers often find setting up lighting expensive, difficult, and time-consuming, and many choose to film on the go, so using traditional studio lighting is impossible. Arcam offers a solution. Designed to resemble the popular Iron Man's arc reactor to appeal to the young demographic, 77.6% of vloggers being under 35 years of age, it allows easy, portable lighting. The main light can be hung on the camera lens to illuminate the subject, which is ideal for capturing a vlogger's face. The secondary light is attached to a detachable mini tripod that has the additional feature of a clip, so it can be placed on or clipped onto any surrounding object or surface. Both lights are packaged in an aluminum case kept in place by latches and are powered by solar panels on the backside of the case. It has detachable straps that, when removed, unfolded, and stretched, can be used as light reflectors, diffusers, or green screens. Arcam can be carried easily like a small backpack when the straps are connected, and is small enough to fit inside most bags.
Right, 17 years old, right? So what you've just seen and what we saw is a brilliant combination of art, design, technology, engineering, marketing, market analysis, and of course storytelling, all in 1 minute. This product doesn't exist, it's just an idea, but this pitch has not only thought of every possible wrinkle in bringing an idea to market, its size, its weight, the materials, the demographic that it was going after. It's also used, and this was near and dear to my designers' hearts, incredibly effective graphic design, motion graphics, and even references to popular culture. I assume you didn't miss the reference to Iron Man's arc reactor, to tell the story and pique the consumer's interest. So with a spate of creative submissions like this one, how did we choose? Okay, so I'm going to tell you right away, kids don't do this at home. We created an admissions committee made of faculty from 4 different schools. Of course, the Roski School of Art and Design, the Viterbi School of Engineering, the Marshall School of Business, and the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, our primary partners in the academy. And you would think with an admissions committee this diverse, we would never come to a consensus. On the contrary, the time that we spent reviewing the applications of these remarkable students actually brought us all onto the same pedagogical page. It made believers out of all of us, specifically believers in the vision for the program and the strength of the profile that we were looking for. And the time that we spent together in deliberations was, I think, some of the most fun that any of us had had in our careers in higher education. And by the way, there was consensus on nearly every application to the Academy. So after reviewing the complete pool of roughly 300 applications, as Catherine says, this is a student-by-student, one-by-one thing. I personally reviewed every single application for the Academy. We came up with a short list of 65, and Gulp invited all of them to campus for interviews. Why? Well, we were looking for a student profile that none of us had seen in person. So, of course, the interviews were essential to the selection process, but more importantly, they were also essential to the recruitment process. We knew we were selling a brand new program, no graduation stats, no placement stats to brag about, nothing. And we knew we were selling it not only to the students, but to their parents. We also knew that if we could get them on the ground at USC, we could knock their socks off. So we created an interview weekend. And on that weekend, each student was interviewed individually by our full panel. They got a tour of the campus. They got a tour of our garage space, which is right upstairs on the 4th floor, which was not yet in construction, but they got to see what the space was looking like, and they also got to see some very beautiful architectural renderings of what it would look like when they arrived. And at the end of the first day, we planned a dinner and a presentation in Town and Gown, and I did a very extensive presentation on the Academy's curriculum. We also invited a very special guest to come and talk with the students and their parents. Jimmy Iovine came and talked for over an hour to this group, and he didn't talk about his time as chairman and CEO of Universal Music's largest record label. He did not talk about his founding of Beats Electronics with Dr. Dre. He talked about his passion and vision for a program that he hoped would offer a path to a new style of entrepreneurship that was intertwined with technology, the arts, and popular culture. We pretty much, as you can imagine, had every student in the room after that, but we weren't done yet. So at lunch the second day, we invited one of the Roski School's secret weapons, Andrew Byram. Andrew is professor of design in the Roski School, and he is hands down one of the most creative, fascinating, and effective teachers I've ever seen. He gave a talk on two-dimensional and three-dimensional design that literally had the whole room in the palm of his hand. And he not only captured the imagination of the students, he was able to show their parents the quality of the instruction and mentorship that their students would receive at USC, and that was huge. So following our interview weekend, we finalized our list of admits. We worked very, very closely, obviously, with Catherine Harrington, Tim Brunold, Kirk Brennan, and their team to create and package offers that we knew would have to compete with top institutions that were also vying for these students. We worked extremely hard to build not just a class, but a cohort of students with diverse backgrounds and abilities that would eventually mesh together into a unique and powerful whole. We gave them offers they couldn't refuse, and we delivered those offers in the coolest way we could possibly think of.
Hey, Joseph, we've got some great news for you.
Congratulations, you've been accepted to the USC Iovine and Young Academy.
The Trojan family is excited to offer you a spot in the class of 2018.
From Hollywood to Hollywood, welcome to USC.
I believe in using my assets. So we recorded 36 individual videos. Jimmy and Dre were incredibly gracious. As you heard at the beginning of the video, they actually named the student by name, Joseph. More than that, every video had some personal content in it about who that student actually was. You heard Jimmy say from Hollywood to Hollywood. Joseph comes from Hollywood, Florida, and he's now, of course, in Los Angeles. So whether they came or not, they had keepsakes, I think, that they were going to hang on to for the rest of their lives. These videos also didn't hurt recruitment. They went viral. You'll see the story here from the Los Angeles Times, but they were emailed and Facebooked all over the world. Just a few little stats. I won't keep you very long with these, but we're incredibly proud of our first class. Their stats are phenomenal. It's an incredibly diverse class as well, which we're particularly proud of. I'll just pitch. We yielded at 86%, which I think is the highest yield at USC last year. So I just want to thank my team for that. We are now in our recruitment phase for the Academy's second class. It's going incredibly well. We obviously face one significant hurdle, and that is to come up with an idea that can possibly top those Jimmy and Dre videos. So if you got anything, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me start first by saying two things. Those of you in the back of the room won't appreciate the first thing that I'm saying, but Dan has some great socks up here. And those of you in the front, I see Bob looking at them. He's going to go buy some. The second thing I wanted to say is thank you very much for allowing me to the honor and privilege to come before you and really present the journey of all of the staff, employees, physicians, administrators that do work at Keck Medicine every day. I want to start by taking us back a little bit and understanding where we've been so that we know where we are. The story really starts in 2009 with the acquisition of Keck Hospital of USC and USC Norris Cancer Hospital. But if we really want a historical perspective, we can go all the way back to 1991 when Keck Hospital was first opened. It opened with one patient and about 500 staff. You can imagine that one patient got some really fantastic care. Over the next 18 or 19 years, you see that we have sort of a nice even glide path of patients, ultimately culminating in 2009 with about 8,000 inpatient admissions a year, more than 10,000 surgeries. But then, from the time that USC acquired the organizations to 2014, we've seen unprecedented growth. More than 50%. Our inpatients are more than 12,000. Our surgeries are almost 16,000. 2 weeks ago, on one day, we did 100 surgical cases. That would be an amazing local story, but this is more than a local story. This is actually, if you look comparatively in the nation, you won't find an organization growing in healthcare like we are during these turbulent times of healthcare reform. Our staff obviously went from 1,300, almost tripled to 3,300, and those staff are dedicated to transforming where community hospitals into academic medical centers. I want to spend the first part of my time talking about the patient experience because I think that's very important. What do patients expect? Dennis asked, what are the expectations? I think patients expect a lot of things. One thing you won't see that's on here that's a given is they expect a good clinical outcome. But beside that, they expect that when they call for an appointment, that somebody will answer the phone, or that they can go online and make appointments. They expect if they drive a car into our medical center that they're going to have a place to park or a valet service to take care of their car. They obviously expect the best treatment. They expect when they get the bill, they're going to understand the bill, and that they might get one bill for all the services that we have. And then I'm going to change that slide to follow through now, Joe, because they don't want just follow-up, but they want follow-through. For me, the patient experience is really personal. I want to share a little story with you, actually, just so you can understand my perspective on the patient experience. So I would say in early 2009, I was part of a patient experience through my son who was sick, and he was getting chemotherapy for cancer. And we were at another hospital. USC did not treat children at the time. We still don't at Keck. But we were at another hospital, and it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I got up to check my son, and I noticed that the bed was all wet. And I thought, that's funny. He doesn't wet the bed. He's 6 years old. And I looked, and I saw that his chemotherapy was actually disconnected when it was supposed to be infusing, and it infused into his bed. Okay? So I called the nurse. The nurse comes in, and I said, you need to get the doctor on the phone. We need to figure out what's going on with this chemotherapy. And she said something to the effect of, well, it's sort of the middle of the night. We can maybe take care of this in the morning. He's probably sleeping. And I didn't say anything, but the look on my face must have been something like, you don't want to do what to who, when? Because she looked at me and she said, just a second, let me get the nursing manager. So I got to speak to the nursing manager, and the nursing manager was wonderful. And actually, interestingly enough, I don't know if she's here, but we hired the nursing manager at Norris, okay, because she did such a great job. When I was appointed CEO, Tom Jackowitz, our Senior Vice President of Health, asked me to be the CEO of our 2 hospitals. At the time, we have 2. Now we have 3. And he said that he needed help to create and sustain a world-class medical center enterprise with engaged employees delivering an exceptional patient and family-centered experience. Did you know you said that, Tom? You said something very much like that, right? And so our work was clear. But here's where we were in 2012. This is important. We did a survey of our employee base because our employees are our people, and they're the ones that are going to deliver this care. And we compared ourselves nationally to more than 600 hospitals and health systems. And we showed up in the 7th percentile. That means 93% of other hospitals and health systems did a better job at partnering with their employees than we did. That was really eye-opening. So we came away from that with work to do on our organizational culture, but also a list of opportunities. And Dennis said I could only have 1 slide for opportunities, Dennis, so I limited it to these. We have opportunities, or now we're going to call them sacrifices, right, Joe? Because these are where we ask our patients to sacrifice. We ask them to sacrifice on scheduling, sometimes on communication, on parking, because we've added so many patients and so many employees that we're not able to keep up with the demand. We've asked them to sacrifice on the fact that they will get multiple bills, not all of which are right the first time or the second time. And we've asked them sometimes to sacrifice on our inability to communicate on next steps. So those are all things we're working on. All right, I want to spend a little bit of time in talking to you about how we're working on some of those things that we're actually working on. Because what do you do in an organization when you don't have the parking facilities, you're not equipped yet to handle the call volume? We get thousands of calls a day, tens of thousands of calls a month. And Capital Construction and Design is building us parking structure, right? But it doesn't go up in one day. So what are we left with? We're left with what we have, which is our people. And our people then become the heart of our service culture. Our employees are that heart, and from them we give them tools that they can use in order to engage our patients further. One of the tools that we give them to use are our known service standards, where we offer patients kind greetings and we notice their needs. And those needs can be needs of environment or needs of their patients that are expressed or unexpressed. And then we ask our employees to own that particular issue, okay? But not only own it, but to wow them. And then we want them to communicate about what the next steps are. So how do we take and redesign the Keck patient experience from the ground up, knowing where we started? We did that by first creating a patient experience department. So we have our wonderful patient experience department, many of which are in the front row, as they should be. And they're really charged with taking our patients and providing that experience that wows our patients, creating that staged, transformational event that Joe's referring to. I want to show you a quick video that has some of our employees and our physicians talking about what it means to create these wow patient experiences from their perspective.
I don't think we expect anything less than excellence.
There's always opportunities for improvement, and our goal is to seek those out and do the best we can to address those and continuing to work toward improving every day.
It is embedded in how we provide our care, how we teach, how we grow, how we interact with each other.
What makes us stand out is our people.
One of our best qualities that we have here is respect towards each other.
Teams that work together well are teams that respect each other, care about each other, and that makes the difference.
Everyone wants the same things at the end of the day, and that's really to deliver outstanding patient care.
We put our patients, all of our patients first, every day.
Our every day is our patient's once in a lifetime.
That's the quality of care that we give here, day in and day out. It just doesn't always make the news and it's unspoken, but it happens here every day.
Just the other day we did a heart transplant on somebody who wasn't able to go home with their family. And then because we did that, they're able to see their son's graduation. I love being a part of that.
One of the things we want our patients to feel is known when they come into the Keck Medical Center.
That just makes my day, knowing that my department has such a huge impact in making that patient feel cared for.
If someone just started working here, I would tell them to put their heart first and really care for their patients as if they were their own family member.
And to work toward that common goal of providing excellent patient service and then recharging overnight and getting ready to do it all over again the next day.
So my favorite part of that video is Kathy Kirby. And I use her line all the time because Kathy Kirby's our director of critical care. And what she says in that video is that we have to remember that our everyday is a patient's once in a lifetime experience. And I think that really motivates us and inspires us to really provide the best service that we can for our particular patients. So how do we set the stage for patients and their families? Our patient experience department has put together some wonderful things. You can see not everybody goes home with a dog. In fact, they don't go home with a dog, but we do have pet therapy, and those pets are able to come around and visit with patients, and the patients love it. We have spa-light services. We're going to get spa-like services, but we have spa-light services where people can get hair done, etc. We have, on occasion, by the way, given massages to people that have requested it. And we do have amenity kits as well, and our ability to check out iPads and other electronic devices to our patients. And so we start learning about our patients. And our hope is that if we learn about our patients and profile our patients, that the next time they come to our facility, we already know some of their likes. And so we can better anticipate their needs. So amenities are great. But to truly have a transformational experience, I think we need to connect all of these dots. So we have the continuum of care here, everything from referral to patient check-in, labs, etc., all the way to where they might recommend us for service. But at any point during that time, we can have a failure. Let me share one with you now. I normally don't like to share the failures, but this is something that happened about 1.5 years ago, where I got a letter from a patient. And it was actually not from the patient, but from the patient's daughter. And the patient's daughter was a nurse at another facility who had wanted to get her mother in to our facility for a particular procedure. And so she called our intake room and spoke with someone in intake and didn't have a good experience with that intake person. Ultimately, they had a difference of opinion of how that intake process should go. The patient's family had one expectation, and the employee had a different expectation. What was interesting is that was a referral from a referring provider, and that nurse called back to the referring provider and said, "I'd like to take my mother to another facility." And they said those dreaded words, right? What facility? UCLA, okay? As a 2-time graduate of USC, I really struggle with that. The letter that I got, though, was a complimentary letter, okay? So the first paragraph said, "I want to thank you for saving my mother's life during this procedure. The nurses were fantastic. The therapists were out of this world. Even the lab services, the sticks didn't hurt and the food tasted good." That was one paragraph. And then I got several pages about her interaction with the intake person. And then the last paragraph said, "I am so glad that that first person I talked to totally misrepresented your facility. That's not what you were about." So for us, we have to be a learning organization. We have to take those things that people tell us, and we have to learn from them and become better. Are we on the right path? The answer is yes, I think we are on the right path. So we've put a lot of things into place. And now when we recently, after 2 years, surveyed our employees, remember we were in the 7th percentile, now we're in the 40th percentile. So our employees are starting to feel like we're on the right path and we're doing the right things to create that experience for patients. But there's still much more to do. We want to make sure we continue to wow our patients and increase referrals. We want to make sure that we sustain the engaged workforce. And we want to now use Lean to ensure efficient processes that benefit our patients. When we get it right, magic happens. I want to show you a video of the time we got it right.
You never rush to judgment when you're working a case. Radiation just scared the hell out of me, just point blank. It's like I told my wife, I'm not discounting it, I'm not saying no, I'm not saying I'll die rather than go through radiation. I want to know what I'm going to get into. I want to know what, if you get it, what are the side effects?
Mr. Enyart came to see me. He had had some high-risk features that were predictive of potential recurrence. He had had a rise in his PSA, which was also an early indication that he may have recurrence of his prostate cancer. Radiation therapy is used to prevent local recurrence.
I told her my wife had had breast cancer back in 1999-2000, and she had to have radiation down at Long Beach, and it destroyed her. It's tissue-wise, it's devastating.
And so we had to overcome me reassuring him that the kind of radiation he was going to get was very different, and that the side effects profile would be very different. And that took a lot for him to overcome those memories of a bad experience.
I was by his side every step of the way, and we said, if we are going to do it, we know one thing: we are going to USC. We will do it at Norris. That's just the way it's going to be. Because when I had my second treatment, initially I was treated somewhere else, and then I was treated at USC, I got the ultimate care. We said, if ever anything ever happens to us in any kind of situation, this is where we'll be.
My radiation treatment started on May 15th, 2014, and ended on July 1st, 2014. I feel 125% better than I did before.
Russ came on one day and he told me that on the very last day, there's a bell that you ring, and he saw one of the patients in there, and she had a big basket and her family, and they ring this big bell, and he was not doing that.
My wife was going out to SC games with a girlfriend of hers who graduated from SC, and I went to a couple games, and they got these little bugs out here, and they bite you, and you get the fever, and I got the fever.
I got to thinking about it, and I talked to my son about it, and I said, you know, Dad said this, he's almost done, because the boys every day were checking on how he was doing. And he goes, Mom, you know, it'd be really cool is if you could get Spirit of Troy to come out. There's nobody bigger fan than Dad.
I thought, yeah, that would be really loud, but I thought it was great. It was so fitting to who they are as a family and to what's, you know, important to them and all the football seasons that Russ will still get to enjoy.
So I clanged the bell, and all of a sudden I hear SC music. I'm standing there and I'm thinking, hey, that's kind of neat. They're playing it over the loudspeaker. And all of a sudden at the end of the hall comes the marching band. I'm in total shock.
And then he saw the boys and my friend, and he was like, oh, I guess this is for me. And it was just, couldn't have been better.
When I'm investigating murder, I'm going full gusto out to get the guy, so he better watch out. And when Dr. Ballas is the doctor on a cancer patient, cancer better look out, because she's on the case.
I really feel that USC Norris healed Russ's cancer and the Spirit of Troy healed his soul.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the beneficiaries of that wow in the middle of the room, Mr. Russ and Mrs. Mary Jo Enyart. Please stand and wave to the crowd. Thank you. Right on. So, absolutely. So in closing, I think the future of the Keck patient experience is a very bright one. But the days of academic medicine where people came to our facilities just because we provided the best outcome are long over. Today, the differentiator is truly going to be the experience they have when they arrive. Thank you.
Well, we are pretty much behind time, so I'm going to forego my 30-minute wrap-up. But let's give the panel a big round of applause. And thank you all for spending time with us and listening to our stories. So Mary, who is turning it over to table content? You? Great, come on in.
Well, you might be somewhat off the hook, but just a little bit. I was going to make you work a little bit harder than I have time left to make you work, because we absolutely must get over to the Town and Gown by noon, because there is more wow to come there for sure. So it's my little joke for the day will just be late last night, somewhere over in the AV pit over there, they said, should we have a countdown clock up on the stage? Okay, so I was going to actually assign every table an actual scenario. It was either going to be a patient scenario or a student scenario, and let the diversity at each table kind of brainstorm actually the patient or student sacrifices. So what I would rather have you do with the 15 or so minutes that we have, we did not want to let you get out of the room without having a chance to take all of this information that's been kind of brought into the room this morning and talk amongst yourselves. And I think that the lesser assignment might be, and the win for the morning before we head off to lunch will be, to simply discuss among your colleagues at your tables, identify where your sacrifices are for your particular customers, and see if you can come up with at least a short list of sacrifices so that you can be able to take that back to your departments after today. So I want to put you into that discussion right now. It's going to be like speed sacrifice identification. Go for it. Could I get everyone's attention back to the front of the room for just a moment? Thank you very much. Hope you had a chance to do some quick ideation at least. That's where it begins. Identifying where you are and where the world is and where the world is going and where we are going. And so I just wanted to mention that my team and I have been compiling a whole list of resources that we are going to have available to the entire Trojan community on a landing page within our website. we'll get you a lot of quick start ideas, and we will send all of that information out to you in the next couple of days. But with no further ado, we have about 400 people to migrate over to our beautiful town and gown for a very lovely lunch and to hear our trustee Rick Caruso speak. So if you could make your way over there right away, that would be wonderful. Thank you.